we are live. So I was contacted, I think it was earlier this week, by someone called Onioncore who wanted to have a chat about men's issues and feminism and things like that. I take it you're fairly new to this debate, Onioncore?
Yeah, I've just been kind of living my life and noticing things that have been happening. I kind of got into the area around the time of Gamergate, but I came late to it, so I wasn't really part of it. And I started listening to people like yourself and Sargon and hopping around different channels. And so I started getting into it a little bit more and doing more research and noticing things. Maybe being able to give names to things I was noticing that was wrong in the world already.
Yeah, I think we all go through that. That's pretty much the red pilling situation, isn't it?
Yeah.
So do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, I'll tell you as much as I can.
Yep.
I'm from the southern of the United States.
Yeah, just full dox yourself.
I'm originally from the southern of the United States, and I'm a husband and a father. I have served in the United States military, and I am getting out soon to pursue the career I'm trying to get into. Now, as being in the military, it's kind of difficult for me because anything I say or do does reflect upon the military. So I have to keep myself out of, sticky situations.
You can't put your face and name out there, is what you're saying.
Yes.
Yeah, a lot of people are in that situation. It's, I mean, look, I give full credit for those who do that, but it can affect your life. Propaganda is a nasty thing, I think.
Yeah, I was actually doing it before, and somebody from my unit saw my channel and got a little PO'd, and it could have gotten me in a lot of trouble. They actually did they actually investigated, but they found I did nothing wrong. It was mainly over a rebuttal video I did to Francesca Ramsey, and somebody didn't appreciate that.
Yeah, well, it doesn't take much, though, does it?
That's sad.
No, it doesn't.
Sad.
And I think things have got worse since Trump got elected. That's not an attack on Trump. It's just things have become fucking crazy in America.
I have noticed that. I mean, people say it in jest. They make it funny, but I think there really is a clinical syndrome of Trump derangement syndrome, because I didn't vote for Trump. He wasn't my guy. I didn't really like him. I still don't really like him that much, but to focus so much of your life on being angry about Trump when 10 years ago he wasn't really on anybody's mind.
I'd be a lot happier if people would actually lob genuine criticism at him instead of bullshit. That's distracting.
Yeah, I mean, personally myself, I wasn't really an Obama fan either, but whenever anybody from like the right would throw stupid stuff like if anybody remembers the whole, to help your gas mileage out, inflate your tires. I mean, they were beating him up about that. And well, that's kind of a common sense thing to do. Why are you being so petty? There's other things to attack him on. Like personally, I didn't like the whole individual mandate for the Obamacare, but go after that, not inflating tires.
The petty stuff is really distracting from actual issues. It's really frustrating.
Yeah, I think there's some legitimate things to criticize Trump over, as with any president. But unfortunately, I just see a lot of people going nuts in the last year. The violence, and people have become more extreme to one extent or the other.
It's adult children throwing a fucking temper tantrum.
Yeah, the middle ground seems to be eroding, which is bad news, I think.
Well, when I was growing up, I kind of got the sense that even if you disagreed with somebody, you kind of understood that people mean well. I mean, I really am kind of one of the in the camp of not liking the SJW type crowd, but I kind of believe that they mean well. They have a certain want for people to be decent. They're just kind of going about it wrong, and it
I
used
would
to be
say,
that way.
sorry to interrupt, but I would say some mean well. There are a lot of coffee shop feminists out there, for example, who truly believe that feminism is just equality and that's it, and that's the way they see it. But at the same time, there's a lot of people who don't mean well, who are very ideologically driven, and that's on both sides, of course.
I think those would be the ones wearing masks and assaulting people.
Yes.
Well, I mean,
You might know something about that.
Like some of them do mean well. Like it's hard to tell because like their ideology is like really strong, so they mean well, but they're just more awful than like the average. But then again, like some people might just be violent or they just want victim points. So like when people are at that extreme, it's kind of hard to tell like how genuine they are.
I think part of this, the problem with the whole feminist thing, comes almost pretty much directly from education, because flat out, most education will just tell you that there was a feminist movement and it was a good thing. They don't really tell you any of the other nuances and all the other events happen, or differences between like the suffragettes and the suffragists. They don't talk about any of the nuance of it. They just flat out say, this was a good thing.
And we often hear it's only the third wave of feminism which has gone off the rails. No.
Have you ever heard that history is written by the victor? There's a reason that saying exists.
Well, that is both true and sort of not, because I could honestly say that feminism didn't really win so much as it sort of backed down, and then they started teaching the kids. And they went to things like college students.
You think they disappeared?
No, they didn't disappear. They just didn't get as loud, and then they just sort of indoctrinated young people.
And but that is a win. You're basically capturing the minds of the next generation.
Yeah, that's what I meant by history being written by the victor. They're teaching a very different history from what actually. Yeah,
it's a different kind of winning, but I see what you're saying. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
It's a very different kind of, like, if you really look into the history of feminism, it didn't do. It didn't do a whole lot of good for anybody.
Well, yeah.
I would say that there were some things that needed to be done, which it
of course
helped to achieve. I'm not going to, throw the baby out with the bathwater, but at the same time, a lot of it, I guess the cornerstone ideology is just built on hating men. And it's weird when we hear all the time feminists say, oh, but it's a myth that feminists hate men. Really? Patriarchy theory, rape culture, mansplaining. I mean, they blame everything.
Men aren't even included in the definition of rape, and that's really sad.
Yeah, well, and male feminists are just called male allies. They're not even proper feminists.
Well,
and some of them say men can't even be feminists. I mean
they're a little creepy. Come on.
That's true. That's true.
Pretty soon, with all that's been going on with like the feminists, the male feminists turning out to be like closeted rapists and stuff like that, pretty soon they'll just say, yeah, men can never be feminists, which is, it's coming. We know it's coming.
Oh, there's a lot of them already saying that.
That already happens.
But a thought has always been occurring to me, because I don't really I'm not in the headspace of a feminist, so I don't know their logical way of thinking. But I've been trying to wrap my head around the idea of the word, or the phrase rather, mansplaining. And how would one use that as a sentence that is not potentially derogatory towards men?
It's not meant to be not derogatory towards men. It is flat out derogatory towards men. It's unapologetically derogatory towards men.
The concept is that men see women as inferior, therefore have to explain things to them like they're little children.
Stop mansplaining it to him.
Yeah, sorry. I'm painful.
Well, yeah. Well, like, what isn't the term like to be condescending towards women or something? And I would just
that was originally how it was supposed to be used for.
Well, I'm like, why do you need to make a new phrase? I mean, isn't condescending universal?
Yes, condescending is already a thing that happens.
Yeah, but they've gendered it, so now it's only something that men do to women. If women do it to men, that's okay because they're the oppressed group and can get away with it.
Well, there's always been one thing that kind of got to me about this whole notion of like the mansplaining and all this kind of stuff. It's like, I have 3 sisters. I live with my mother after my parents got divorced. I have a wife. You know, I have a lot of cousins. When has a man ever treated a woman badly where the woman didn't step into their face and bitch them out? Like women are out there and they're just taking this?
Well,
No.
I guess there are some women who take it, but if you're going to take that route, then there are men who take it too.
Oh yeah, there's actually that's interesting because women tend to abuse more in that way than men do, emotionally belittling and degrading.
Yeah, but that only counts when men do it to women.
Yeah.
when we're talking about female victims of domestic abuse, we basically include everything, you know, even things like using logic in an argument is a form of domestic abuse against women. That was put out by a university in America.
What?
I'm not joking. I am not joking. I'm 100% serious. Using logic in an argument against a woman is a form of domestic abuse.
Wait, did you send me that? I think you sent me an article about that at some point.
I don't remember. I can find it later and send it to you if I haven't. But that's a legitimate thing. But the interesting thing is when we try to use emotional abuse as a standard for male victims, we're told that, you know, that's not as bad as violence. So, you know, we can just bring the number right down because it only counts when women are violent towards men.
If using logic is domestic abuse, then I was a terrible abuser of my last girlfriend.
How dare you?
How dare I say that?
How dare you logic at a woman? That's mansplaining and horrible.
And we got that on tape now, so
yeah, that's the admission of it. Yeah.
Kevin
They
Logan
don't...
can finally do a video on you now. He's got the
Oh,
one.
he's been chopping at the bit, has he, to try and make something on me?
Oh yes.
To be honest, I don't know if he knows you exist, but
we've streamed with him on the Cunt stream before. So.
You have? Okay.
Yeah. I've talked to him. I think
yes, we have.
I've talked to him 3 times, and each time I've asked him, so you're going to credit me for using my art in that thumbnail of yours? Oh, you're not? Oh, okay.
He stole Samaja's art.
Stream with us and Kev on the bar. I forgot about that.
Yeah, actually, we did that too.
Yeah. And each and every time I've ever talked to him, he's like, do I even know who you are?
You know who I am. Yes, you do. He knows you. He just doesn't want to credit you because you're a terrible MGTOW asshole.
I don't think you've got enough subs though to be worth his while.
That's true. I think I'm still under 100. So, which is
you
fair.
don't have enough boobs on your channel. That's why.
You know, I was actually just thinking that earlier today. I was like, you know, I should just spend a whole day and I'll just draw nothing but boobs and I'll upload that to my channel and I'll probably get like lots of subs. I won't even draw heads or arms, just breasts.
Anyway, back to Onioncore.
I love breasts. You know.
Oh, we all do.
We all do.
Even the woman.
Of course.
You know.
Who doesn't? Even there are even gay men that love boobs. They're just nice and comfortable and soft and lovely.
I was having an off-air conversation with someone one time, and it was a gay guy, and he was like, "Yeah, I mean, when I'm by myself, I jerk off to just straight porn. I mean, I'll do nothing but have sex with men, but when it comes to like porn, I'll like lesbian, whatever. I'll like what?
Anything, as long as there's people fucking.
As long as there's a woman involved and there's boobs. I don't know. Anyway, we gotta get back.
Dirty, filthy men and their objectifying of women. Look at this.
All right, let's move back on to the subject.
You can't be in a hangout with the majority of men because that means that it's just going to devolve into objectifying women.
Exactly. Show us your tits. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I did it.
Oh, I'm the wrong woman for that.
I guess. I still haven't gotten my sandwich yet.
I'm sorry. Not really, though.
Anyway, back to the topic.
Well, as far as myself goes, I've just been noticing all this stuff in the world going wrong. It not the way I thought it should go. Like as far as feminism and MRA and MGTOW and all this kind of stuff, it's just kind of the breakdown in the way men and women relate to each other. I am a firm believer that men and women complement each other. Men and women work best together. And if you push that apart, that's where you get what's going on today. You just get a separation of women being afraid of men, and men now going their own way, getting away from women because they're too dangerous.
But you have to look at who gendered issues.
I think we have to. I think we had to go through a period of change, though, basically because I think gender roles are outdated.
Oh yeah.
So
for a lot of people they are, but for a lot of people they aren't.
No, but it should be about choice, though.
Exactly.
Yeah, it shouldn't be something which is forced on people. It should be all about choice.
But it's not a gendered issue. There's gender roles for men and for women.
Yes.
Neither should be expected to be forced into.
Yeah, exactly. But that's my point. When we go through a change, there's going to be conflict for a while because people are, readjusting and figuring things out and finding a new footing, I guess.
Not judging the hell out of other adults for their life choices.
Well, I think a lot of these changes and inner conflicts, if you will, of societies, which is what I think feminism, the third wave in particular, is essentially doing. And then you have other groups out there like BLM and all these internal societal issues. I think that's usually a sign that things are actually of a thriving society, because otherwise, during let's say World War II, people were more focused on the war and all the other kind of stuff, and we didn't deal with any of these gender issues because it wasn't a thing. It wasn't something you really had to focus on. And then because you had something bigger and more dangerous to worry about, and when you take away all those concerns and whatnot, society it gets bored, essentially, which is essentially. Yeah, it got too good, and that's why we're talking about stuff like genders and what all this stuff is the most first world of first world problems. These aren't really that big of a deal, but they are making it into a big deal. And I think that's not because they're purposely trying to be terrible people. I think they're just bored and they need something to fight against, because we as a species like our conflict.
You definitely see that on Tumblr.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah. Oh god. I stopped looking at Tumblr because
have any of you guys ever heard of the utopian mouse experiment?
Yes.
I have.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's essentially what people are going through. They're getting bored, and so they're finding things to be outraged about because they're bored. Life being good is boring.
Yeah, you need something to do. Does anyone want to explain the mouse thing in case anyone's coming in or listening to us that's never heard that before?
About it. Basically, what happened was that the mice were given all the food they needed, so they didn't need to hunt for it, and then they sort of left them to their devices. And what happened was that over time, the mother mouses would become a lot more neglectful. Some of in later generations, they would have less children. Some of them would become really, really aggressive and attack each other, and others would become really, really passive and just focus all their times on grooming. And then eventually, after a few generations, they went extinct.
It was essentially suicide by not breeding. The males tended to spend more time grooming and primping themselves, and the females tended to just eat.
Yeah, and there's more gayness, more homosexual behavior in the mice.
Yeah, the male mice groomed each other, groomed themselves a lot.
Well, there is
You
a
know.
natural human cycle that has. I've studied a bit of world history, and there is a natural human cycle where it is humans tend to thrive when there's adversity, but then when they hit the pinnacle, when they hit the pinnacle of just their societies, they tend to go into God, lack of a better word, hedonism, and just fulfilling their own desires, and then they have a fall, whether it's from the outside or from the inside, and then you have the adversity again where man thrives a bit further, and then the cycle continues.
Yeah, but I think we have a chance to sort of end that cycle with like technology. Like we could create like create a post-scarcity world.
We're actually getting really strangely close to ending aging. It's
yeah.
it's a little bit. It's a little bit scary if you think about how quickly the population's risen, and then we're gonna eradicate aging on top of it.
Well,
Do you
thing is
think?
that
Do you think the
like
poor
people are
third
having
world
less
though?
children. Like it's not going overpopulation is not going to be a problem. Like it'll take about like 50 billion people before we're overpopulated.
But the
And like we won't even get to that because like if people live forever, they're not going to have as many children.
People can the planet can only sustain about 26 billion. And
Well,
I think what are we sitting at right now? 11 billion?
I'm pretty sure we're going to be.
7 billion.
I'm pretty sure there'll be a technology or a method to try and cope with that, with like let's say like feeding ourselves and everything else. The main control is making sure no one has like lots of children. But
Yeah.
I mean that in itself. I mean, some people like having kids. So
yeah, that's the whole thing. And then we have like people who are opting to not have children, and then it's just another one of those things that people like to get outraged over. How dare you not have children? Like, you're so selfish. How dare you?
Yeah, but when a country goes from third world to the first world, there tends to be a population boost.
Oh yeah.
Because in the third world, basically, a lot of children die before they reach adulthood, so families tend to be big. And then when things like clean drinking water and an abundance of food and medicine increase the number of children who make it to adulthood, those children still tend to have big families, at least for a couple of generations. So the population tends to explode. But then it levels out, and parents tend to start only having one or two children because they can put more resources into a smaller family rather than a bigger family.
Yeah, I saw a statistic one time that said if you took all the humans on the planet Earth right now and you stood them shoulder to shoulder and just kind of lined them up, we would all fit on the main island of Hawaii. So there's a lot more land out there than people think.
Well, true enough. I mean, we in Canada, we have like this huge landmass, and we've barely even begun populating it. And,
yeah, but you have to take into account things like you need drinking water and food as well, and a large part of the world is an ocean. So
lots of it's uninhabitable too.
Plus, plus people.
Yeah, I think that the problem, we're not. The main problem with overpopulation is carbon dioxide emissions, like global warming. And in that case, like we have been overpopulated because like it's obviously affecting the weather. But like the best way to combat that is through nuclear power, because like renewables aren't going to cut it, and like fossil fuels are the problem. So
I agree.
Like the only way, yeah.
A lot of people
breathe
don't like
less.
nuclear power though.
I don't know about you, but I saw some of those reports of those wind turbines because we ran some experiments on them, and they were killing so many birds.
Oh yeah! Oh, I saw. I saw that.
That actually kind of bothered me because if you put any of these like during the migration area of like rare, almost endangered birds, that could be the end of an entire species. And I'm like, yeah, no, I don't care if you say it's good for the planet. It's not good for the ecosystem. Obviously, it's not. So
Do you know how many species have gone extinct over the course of the existence of the planet, though?
Oh, I think like what was it, like 99 of the planet's inhabited species have gone extinct. Yeah, we are what remains. So it's pretty devastating when you think about it. And most of that was not even our fault. I know that certain environmentalists
Well, it
out
is.
there.
It is because we're taking up habitat. So a lot of it
we're
is.
increasing it, but
We're increasing it. I mean,
it happens naturally anyway.
Yes.
I mean, there were far more different species on the planet long before we ever came on.
Oh yeah, that's what I mean. Before we were what we are now, species were going extinct.
Yeah.
Well, if you want to save any animal species, what you got to do is eat it.
It's true.
Yeah.
There are so many cows.
If you eat it, you will breed it so that you have plenty of it, and then it will no longer be endangered.
Yeah, but live a really crappy life, and we'd probably like genetically engineer it to the point where, like, it's not like the same animal we domesticated.
Although, to be fair, I mean, that process didn't help the dodo, because that was actually hunted pretty much to extinction. And a lot of people thought because it was they thought it'd be like a rare delicacy, and a lot of people did eat it.
Oh, we breed things now. We weren't really breeding things for.
Yeah, true enough. Although I am looking forward to the idea of people bringing back animals, because I know that's going to be a thing. They're going to clone up different species of animals, and they're trying to figure out like which one to bring back first.
Definitely the dodo.
Yeah.
I would like
talking
to see the dodo.
about like the woolly mammoth.
I heard about.
I want to see a dodo.
Well, we're not sure if we can do that. Like, do we have DNA of the dodo?
No, we don't. The reason I don't think so.
That sucks.
Well, it's somewhere, and they're investigating different museums, because somewhere in a museum there is a stuffed dodo, and there's probably DNA in that dodo. But so many museums have either gone under or have been shut down, or they've moved it back and forth between different places. There's a dodo somewhere. And the thing is trying to figure out where it is, who has it, and they pray to God that it hasn't been destroyed yet. Although,
I don't really see the point, though. Like, what would be the point of the dodo?
For fun.
Just because?
Yes,
well,
for fun. That's what science is all about.
Well, and also, like, when you bring something back, you might learn something else that could help you. And you can crossbreed with other things. I mean, one of the things that some people don't know is, like, you may have noticed, like, when you look at, like, things like silk scarves, you can find them at malls and stuff for like $20 or something. And when you hear silk, you think of like silkworms, and that takes forever. And that would be like those should be like thousands upon thousands of dollars for a silk scarf. And they're manufacturing very easily. And how they did that is that they added genes into female goats and cross split them. And so their others actually produce they actually use spider silk or something like that. So they did that. So that's when you get silk scarves. It's actually coming from goats.
Imagine the dodo is a magical creature that you could roast like a turkey, but it doesn't get dry. How are we going to know this? It's a very important question.
Well,
nobody likes dry turkey.
Well, from what I heard, like there were actually like critiques on dodos from back in the day when they were cooking it, and for the most part, it's not good. The only reason
not?
It is.
I mean, I guess we could keep them as pets, because I heard they're pretty docile.
Maybe.
Like, they never had like natural predators on their island, so maybe like we'd be able to like be more like friendly with them.
Maybe.
I'm blaming it on the preparation. They probably taste delicious.
Maybe. I mean, from what I heard from all these reports, that they were very chewy. They weren't very tasty. They didn't hold like spices very well. Like if you put spice on them, it just doesn't do anything.
Anyway, back to the topic.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
How many tangents are we going to go on before we actually get anything interesting?
And what's the topic?
Yeah.
Glad to know I'm not the only ADD one here.
Everybody on every hangout ever. It's like,
so, Onion, did you have any questions? As a newbie to the whole gender debate.
I'll let you ask. I'll be right back.
Well, I guess the biggest question that I have is just, why is it accelerating so fast right now? It used to be like the frog in the pot and boiling the frog. but for slowly turning up the heat, and the frog dies after it gets too hot. But for some reason, over the past maybe 10 years, they have turned that heat right up to freaking blast furnace.
I think the internet is probably the answer.
Oh yeah, that'll be it.
Yeah, people can like talk to each other from like across the world, and like there's exchanging ideas, but like it also allows, I guess, people to like radicalize and like meet radicals that they normally wouldn't get involved in.
The internet and boredom. Everything's too good. We need issues to fight against, and we've run out of decent ones. So
well let's
genders.
Let's say there's a news story about I don't know, a man getting drunk and being raped by a woman, and the court's not seeing it as rape for whatever reason, right? Just for the sake of argument, let's say there's a story like that. Now that can go around the globe instantly on Twitter and Facebook and YouTube and numerous other places. Whereas 20 years ago, how would you find out about that unless you read it in your local newspaper?
Mm.
So these things spread very, very quickly, as well as misinformation too. Unfortunately, there's a lot of misinformation that spreads around the globe instantly.
It's mostly misinformation.
Yeah.
You had to make like 50 something hours, like just talking about misinformation.
Oh, I'm up to I think 67 now.
Videos are too short.
I haven't uploaded episode 60. No, 57. Up to 57. Sorry, 57.
Oh, are you doing something special for 60?
No, I did something special for 50, but I'll do something special for 75. With the backlog of stuff I've got, it's not too far off, I can tell you.
Well, I guess I just my father was a pastor, so I guess I grew up with an unending faith in the goodness of man, and it's just that I see that slipping away. It's just people. I can kind of see how the information and the misinformation is affecting different people. Like I guess with feminism and like the terms like how women feel afraid of this thing, even if they're not going to be assaulted or raped or something, they feel afraid they're going to be. And I guess the best explanation I heard was it Karen Strawn, I think. She said, imagine a alarm salesman comes to a woman's house every day and tells her about all the horrible, violent things that are happening in her neighborhood, but these things aren't actually happening. He's just trying to sell her an alarm system.
Yeah, exactly.
And then he eventually convinces her that these horrible things are happening, and she sits in her house afraid. Now imagine that's feminism doing this to women.
Yeah,
don't you know like
much.
don't you know like one in two women are raped now?
It's not 2 in 1 now. Yet. I have heard 1 in 3.
It's 2 in 1 now.
Well, let me just say this. Now we have a word in the military called SHARP. I'm not sure if y'all know what that acronym means, but sexual harassment and sexual harassment and assault prevention. And let me just say that me and my wife, our entire courtship, if you would call it that, could be considered a gigantic SHARP complaint, because by the rules of today's standards, we raped each other so much, we harassed each other so much. Each one of us did it to the other one. So we should both be thrown in jail.
No, it was only you.
Yeah.
The woman cannot do that to a man.
Yeah, you just incriminated yourself online.
Live, no less.
Oh, she's taking advantage of a drunk man.
Yeah, but that's the patriarchy teaching her that that's the only way she can compete with men. So it's not really her fault.
No,
it sounds like slut shaming to me.
Yeah, she doesn't have any agency of her own. How dare you suggest that?
Yeah. Clearly, the drunk man was responsible.
He raped her, of all things.
Well, that was a story that came out, I think about 2 years ago now, where a college student got very drunk and was taken advantage of by his girlfriend's roommate. And then years later, she accused him of raping her.
Oh, God.
And he got kicked out of university.
Did he ever get justice for that one? I heard this tale, but I didn't hear any follow-ups.
I think he sued them, but I can't remember what the result was. I think he sued the university, but yeah. She left afterwards and sent text messages to friends saying, I did something which I think was really wrong. And she also texted another guy to arrange sex later that night, which is what you do after you've been raped. Apparently, you find another guy to sleep with.
Well, you got to get the taste out of your mouth.
Yeah. But none of that evidence was allowed to be shown in their kangaroo court at the university. So, yep. A male victim of rape who was too drunk to consent is accused of being the rapist and kicked out of university.
Now that's actually one of my points that is actually getting to me right now, because as I said, I'm getting out of the military and I'm going to school. So I'm going to college. I'm going to go to a brick and mortar college. So now I'm married and I'm going to stay away from anything like that. But with all this craziness, it's just interesting to see what I'll find when I get there.
Do you mind if we ask your age?
I am 39 years old.
Okay, so you're a little bit younger than me. So yeah.
Okay. Well, you look
that
great.
That doesn't sound like a good
joke. It's all the Kool-Aid.
Yeah.
It's that lovely shade of red.
So
it's going to be an interesting experience.
Yes. But I the funny thing is I'm going for a STEM field, so I'm going for one of the hard sciences.
Oh, that's patriarchal and
yeah,
sexist.
Be sure to oppress all the female students in the class.
Well, I've actually got a theory about all this patriarchy and all the white supremacy and all the things we see out there, or at least how they're blaming about it. My theory is that people are doing well, and since people are doing well, they're proving that their culture that pushes them to do well is basically a better culture than other cultures. Now, in America, it's actually probably Asian culture, or I think Nigerians are doing the best in America, but en masse, the white European American style culture is actually pushing towards less fatherlessness, more personal responsibility, and people tend to succeed and thrive. And it's all trying to tear down that culture and say that it's illegitimate because, the people from other cultures are not doing so well. So we have to basically call you a horrible thing as if you did not earn it.
What's that?
That is the most obnoxious doorbell in the world.
Oh, I'm sorry. That is my that is my wife's clock that her mother gave her.
Oh, I was wondering what that was.
I thought it was a doorbell. I've heard those before.
Yeah, I'm sorry. It'll be done in a minute.
Yeah, so look, I do agree there is a huge hate of Western culture by the social justice crowd. And I think that goes back to Marxism, to be honest.
I mean, are you trying to say that single mother homes aren't the best homes?
Absolutely. Even though I am from a single mother home, and if you looked at two of my sisters, you would agree. It's just that I believe in individualism, that individual people are doing their individual best to do their best and for themselves and their families. And we see the results of that in statistics. And some people that are not individualistic, more collectivist, just show the statistics and say, well, these people are doing better because they usurp somebody else's chance to do better. No, it's individual people doing their best, and they're not cheating somebody else out of it. They're just doing their best for themselves and their family.
And even if they are cheating and doing something bad, I mean, they're doing it for like a self-preservation thing. It doesn't make it evil, and doesn't make it right, but it's not like it's terrible.
Well, I mean, if I'm supposed to like all these people say deconstruct, or I hear deconstruct your whiteness. If you're not deconstructing your whiteness, you're part of the problem. What is deconstructing my whiteness? Is that making sure that my family starves?
No, I think it means I think it means feeling guilt and throwing yourself on the ground, and you know.
White and black are easily the most racist fucking things to call anybody. It's not a culture. It's a skin color. It's a reduction to your skin color.
What I find amazing is the term "people of color." It sounds so incredibly racist to me, because isn't the term "colored's" a racist term?
Yeah. Well, I personally
don't think it really matters. Like it's more like intent than like at the actual word. So.
Yeah, colored people is racist. Colored people was the thing that they decided was racist, and they switched it to people of color, like it's somehow different.
I mean, like, I think colored people was sort of reclaimed like several decades ago. Like I don't know, there were some like organizations with like colored people in it that like was like anti-racist. So I don't know, it seems like it's more like a mixed term, but
oh, like use it now and see what happens.
Yeah, isn't it the National Coalition of People of Color or something like that? I can't remember off the top of my head.
NAACP, National Association for the Advancement of Colored People.
That's it. That's the one.
They better change it, because that's racist now. Oh wait, no, they're allowed. It's just people of white colored skin that aren't allowed to say that.
I'm not saying that the term is racist, but it just sounds racist to me based on, I guess, certain negative terms I've heard in the past.
It's just all very segregating.
Well, I mean, I come from the South, so I've heard about racism all my life. And I mean, everybody knows about the South. I mean, the Klan meets in town hall every Wednesday.
So how many slaves did your family own?
Well, we had to let them all go because we couldn't afford them. Unfortunately, it was over a cliff that we let them go. So,
oh, shit.
You know that's going to be taken out of context.
It's okay. That's okay. It's called humor. We still have it. It's
cue the PC police.
Well, I mean, in the South, it's a lot different than people think. People just live their own lives. Now, there is that animosity there, and it's that same thing of being taught your whole life. Well, it's like, okay, in my childhood, I was taught that, you know, black people are going to hate you. And I was taught that I am a racist. And I know I have had friends that were black that they were taught their entire lives that white people are going to try to harm you. They're going to try to, they're going to be racist towards you and everything. It's like looking at a snake. And they teach you your entire life that that snake will bite you. If you go near that snake, it will bite you and kill you. Well, every time you see a snake, you're going to think that it's dangerous and it's going to bite you and it's going to kill you. So your first reaction towards that is to stay away.
So it's a threat narrative, basically.
Yes.
It's very similar to the narrative that feminism uses to demonize men.
So was this just in the South, or was this all of America? Because it seems to be all of America in 2017.
All of everywhere.
The thing about the South is it's kind of out in the open. It's not that people are openly racist towards each other. It's just that we talk about racism more. So, and we actually, the South actually has a lot of hospitality, person to person. When it comes to groups, we're horrible to each other. But when it comes from person to person in our daily lives, we have a lot of hospitality towards each other. So that breaks down a lot of the barriers. And
this is why identity politics suck.
And since I've been in the Army and I have traveled around America, I have found that the more enlightened places, like the northern states that are, you know, and the coastal states that are so much better than those, you know, southern and midwestern states, they are a lot more racist. They just don't. They just. It's in the way that they interact with people on a daily basis.
It's pretty condescending the way that they pedestal people of color. Like, that's racist.
Well,
shouldn't you just treat everybody the same? Be decent to everybody?
No,
yes.
that's racism, apparently, because you have to take into account people's history. So
yes, I'm responsible for my great grandparents.
well, I saw someone do a response video to someone making the point that saying that you're blind to color is actually racist, and the person made the point that imagine a chess game where the white person replaces their rooks with queens and replaces their pawns with knights or whatever, and the black person is missing half their pieces. And now we're just meant to see it as equal, as if, you know, the two sides are even.
What?
And for that reason, we can't just treat African Americans like anyone else. We have to treat them different.
Well, don't they have to then at least provide evidence that systemic racism is a thing? That the system is actually racist?
Some studies, some studies show like black people, or like people with black names get discriminated against. Although I don't really think that's directly due to like race. I mean, I'm sure like if a white person had like a really foreign name, it would also like if you receive discrimination.
I wonder if someone did that study with the name Cletus or something like that. Whether
actually that would be interesting.
Whether they'd get the same result.
Yeah.
Bubba Cletus.
My name's Bubba. I'm here. I'm taking your call today. How may I help you?
Bobby Joe. You know. When it comes down to that, it's just I don't understand how you can take it one way and not the other. How you can say that white people have all the great things that white people have done and the bad things that white people have done in the past, but you have to judge all white people on these things, but not any other race. Like, I don't look at I don't hear a story about a Hispanic man that raped a woman and go to my friend who's Hispanic and say, excuse me, why are you raping women?
Well, that's the thing.
Yeah.
It's not even all white people. White isn't a race. It's just a skin color. English, maybe.
But correct me if I'm wrong. There were more slaves in South America than Northern America, weren't there?
Yes.
There are more slaves in Africa than there were in America.
Yeah,
There's still slaves in Muslim countries.
And Africa today, yeah.
Wasn't there like more like Irish slaves in history than there were black slaves?
I don't think
there's kind of a difference with that, because with the Irish, it did stay indentured servitude. Now they were treated worse, than black slaves because they were more expendable, but it was still legally indentured servitude.
Right.
But if you look at the world as a whole, when it comes to slavery, America and the years that America existed, is like the least egregious of all slavery in the world. So when people say American slavery is the worst thing in the world, well, they don't have a leg to stand on, because you can point out so much worse, like the Arab slave trade, where like they were castrating all the men, they raped all the women, and if they survived, they lived like terrible lives.
Well, they still do that. They still do something called hobbling in Arab countries to African slaves, where they break their ankles so they bind their feet so they couldn't actually escape even if they wanted to, but they could still work.
Look,
and that still happens.
I think we should point out though that the slavery in America was horrific.
Oh, yeah.
But if you're going to hold white Americans accountable for what their ancestors may or may not have done, and in most cases didn't do because only a small percentage of the population owned slaves, then shouldn't you hold Hispanic people responsible as well, considering the slave trade was so much larger in South America?
Well, logically, yeah, but I think that certain groups out there are trying to push a narrative.
Yeah, well, of course. Well, that's the point, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, they're not trying to tear down, Hispanic culture. They're trying to tear down Western culture. And if it doesn't fit within destroying Western culture, well, then it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, there's a lot of we must destroy the white nuclear family going around right now, too.
Yeah.
Well, I'm doing my best to create one white nuclear family.
Well, that's super racist and problematic, and I'm triggered. You can't love who you want and have children with who you want. You better go and marry a black woman right now.
Well, my wife was just barefoot in the kitchen, and I am raising my son to be a pretty damn good patriarch. and I'm going to go get a nice high-paying job and probably take a job away from some woman that would have got the job, but she went into studies instead of STEM.
No. They're not going to give you a job because you don't fill their quotas.
Hold on. So what you're telling me is someone who goes to university and studies gender studies shouldn't get a job in STEM over you who has studied STEM? Are you serious?
Well, maybe if I get a STEM studies.
I'm really shocked, actually.
Yeah, that is outrageous. Clearly, someone studying gender studies should be put first.
They deserve to be doctors.
Yes.
Yeah, social sciences are real science. Like, what exactly are you studying, though? Like, which degree?
I'm going into IT. I'm going into networking.
Oh, you're going to be a professional neckbeard.
Unfortunately not. I'm still staying in the reserves, so I will have to shave the neckbeard every 3 weeks.
Yeah, you don't need a neckbeard to be a neckbeard. It's all state of mind, man. Start playing some Warhammer, you'll be good.
I could never get into the tabletops.
Well, at least until the feminists complete their takeover of the Warhammer community.
They're trying, but they're not succeeding.
Well, I certainly hope so.
It pisses me off.
The best thing they did for Warhammer is to demand that they shower. I don't know. We're gonna get a little off topic again, but I don't know if anybody heard that they actually made it mandatory in competitions, Warhammer competitions, that if you are not showered or you have offensive body odor, you will not be allowed or permitted to participate.
Was that really an issue?
Yes, it was, and the very fat neckbeards are saying that it's body shaming.
Well, there's two fandoms getting attacked right now. There's the Warhammer community, and then there's the Magic the Gathering community, which I'm.
Magic the Gathering is getting the shaft big time.
Well, what happened?
Everything's sexist, everything's racist, and you must point it all out.
Well, this is in the it's in the wheelhouse of what we're talking about here, but essentially where I think his name is Jeremy from Out of Sleeve Media or something like that. He has a YouTube channel. He talks about Magic the Gathering, like the cards, the boosters, and all that kind of stuff. And he goes to the various different tournaments. Sometimes he'll participate, but mostly he interviews people, like people who work at the Magic, and so it's relatively normal. But he does have some harsh criticisms about, let's say, some of the female cosplayers who come over, and they're essentially just girlfriends of people who play, and they just stand around, do nothing, and look pretty. But they tend to just sort of drag everyone down, apparently.
Yeah, so he said that cosplayers are just women in lingerie.
Yeah,
basically.
Which is, like, I've been to enough conventions, and I can tell you that's pretty accurate. He's not wrong.
So the ones that are getting paid to be booth babes, I don't doubt it, but it's not a woman's fault, I guess, if they're a fan of a character. Because have you seen like some of the ways that female characters look?
Yeah.
Like it doesn't bother me at all because men are also expected to be like ripped with a 7-pack and topless half the time.
So what you're saying is we need more female characters in burqas.
I'd never advocate for that, but you're not wrong in that assessment.
Suicide bombing the game.
Well, I mean, in the case of in the case of booth babes, they've been like banned from things. They don't do booth babes anymore. You're not allowed to hire women to dress like the characters and sell the product,
which is stupid. Fucking stupid.
And women,
I don't think that. Like, I think it's a pretty like trashy way of selling things, honestly, and just kind of like playing off like men's libido.
Yeah, but if that's your audience.
Well, as a former geek, I don't call myself a nerd. Nerds are the smart geeks. As a former geek, I can tell you that it is a completely legitimate thing, the booth babe thing, because most of us got brushed off by women that looked half as good as them. And if you go to a Comic-Con or you go to a games convention and everything, and you see that extremely hot woman in a tight outfit paying you a little bit of attention, well, that's a really good selling point.
Well, and it's not just that. I mean, for a long time, like guys who are geeks who love their fandoms and all that, they've often been shamed for liking them. Like D&D players have often been shamed as these basement dwelling geeks. And whatnot. Every community does that. But when you go to a convention and here's a woman who is dressed up like these characters and whatnot, it tends to make you feel a little bit, like it's a little bit more accepting. Like, parents always yell at you, say you'll never get a girlfriend. Look, ma, ladies like this too. Right?
Exactly. And like booth babes are obviously like body for hire, but I mean, if they want to do that, they're allowed to do that. Just like porn stars. Porn stars sell their body for whatever reason. They're allowed to do that.
Booth babes get paid to do there, and there's nothing wrong with that. I think that's perfectly fine. And even though like they can't do that anymore, they're not allowed to hire them, I guess. But
Which
I mean, women,
stupid.
Yeah, it is stupid. But women, cosplay as these characters anyway. I mean, even if the companies aren't allowed to pay women to do it, women are going to do that regardless.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of women that'll cosplay as whatever the hell they want.
Yeah, no booth babes.
Yep.
I'll always remember my very first convention I ever went to, which was an anime convention, and it was it was that experience in particular because my mom, she was dropping me off. It was my first ever convention, and she was dropping me off at the front of the building. And I look out my window, I see a couple Pokemon cosplayers, some Yu-Gi-Oh!
Babes everywhere.
Well, I look out my window, I see that. My mom looks out her window, she literally sees girls, literally in lingerie with like anime wigs and signs she can't even understand. She's like, son, are you sure you want to be here? And I'm like, yeah!
No, let me out! Oh man, if you get girls in pumps and you're a bit of a short guy and you get a hug from one of them, oh, that's like your best day ever.
Well, I've got a theory about the attack on geek culture as well. I mean, most of the guys that that built geek culture were geeks and nerds in school, and they were bullied. And the same bullies that were the bullies in school are still at it. It's the same thing. They're just trying to bully the nerds. They're still bullying the nerds. And now there's money in it. So there's more of a reason for these bullies to come try to drive them out so they can take all the money.
I just want to play with my miniatures.
But that's reinforcing patriarchy.
Fuck you, leave me alone. Don't mansplain miniatures to me.
Playing with miniatures is clearly rape culture because those miniatures didn't...
No, they're all men, and they kill each other, so it's okay.
Well, it's part of toxic masculinity then, isn't it?
It is. It is.
I mean, it's only wrong when they attack women, though. Like, men attacking men is not really... Like, it doesn't matter.
Oh, there's female soldiers, too. They're equal opportunity murder.
Equal opportunity murder.
But they're
it's only
like,
wrong when they kill the females.
They're in, like, metal bikinis and shit, because armor.
Yeah.
And that would make them pretty easy to kill.
No. The boobs are the only thing you need to protect.
You know, I always, like, whenever they make that argument, and I've heard that for so many years, like, this is unrealistic. Well, there's a couple things you can say of that. Dragons are unrealistic, too, but they're still in that story. Wizards are unrealistic. It's all unrealistic. It's a fucking fantasy.
Yeah.
It's
Like,
all the men are ripped. Where's
the... Like, I would say there are definitely levels of, like, if you, like, a world, like, you can have dragons in, like, a grounded world, but...
Where are all the obese men in gaming?
Yeah, but that's another thing. Like, they want realism, but they also want fat people to be like the superheroes,
like acrobats.
Yeah,
which just sounds funny to me. Do it.
It's very cringy to even remotely think about. There's a comic right now called Faith, and it's a fat superhero, and it's a female fat superhero, and it's still
Is that
going.
the one in white that flies?
Yeah. The one that she's a superhero. What's her powers besides flying? It's like, well, she's a fat superhero. People have read the book and they don't know what she does.
Has she jumped off a dumpster and broken her ankles yet?
Well, clearly there should be more fat people in the Olympics. I don't know why. It's clearly
highly underrepresented.
It's clearly the patriarchy keeping them out.
It is.
Because,
I mean,
they should be allowed to run too.
You know,
well,
they have contests for fat people. They're called eating contests.
Well, they're like fat people can function just as well as any whale. I mean, come on now. I want to see them swimming.
That was good. That was beautiful.
Well, they are
but come on. Seriously, we need more fat people in the high jump.
Seriously, we need the broken knees. How far do you think a fat person could jump in the long jump?
I don't think
there's a joke about putting food at the end of the sand pit there. I'm sure.
It depends on if you count the rolling.
Of course you do. Otherwise, you're fat phobic.
I don't know. I think you have to set up different rules for fat people. Like when you they can't do like actual diving. They can only do cannonballs, and from there you have to measure how big is the splash and did you touch the bottom.
Oh, how winded they are when they get to the top of the high dive. How many of the stairs bend?
How many of the stairs?
How does the diving board break?
You need to lower the pool and the diving board for them, so they don't have to climb up.
Well, there has to be an elevator in there. Obviously.
Then that won't be fun.
It's true. That you can't
cannonball.
This is the fat people Olympics. They have to be a little bit Olympian.
Maybe we can like put in like elevator on the slide.
No, you lower everything, so the height of the diving board is still the same, but it's just lowered, so it's at floor level.
So are they only going like one step up, or they're just walking straight out?
Exactly, walk straight out and then
walk straight out and flop in.
the only way that fat people Olympics would be remotely interesting is everything has to involve dropping. Like
it would be funny as shit.
It would be
that.
The Olympics for fat people will be them versus gravity. It's essentially diving and falling and rolling and tumbling. It's all gravity. All gravity.
The hill roll.
Like a great comedy skit.
Seriously, I would watch that. I don't like the actual Olympics, but I would watch that.
I hope my ideas don't get pitched off to some Japanese producer. They'll do it.
Oh, they probably already do. They probably already do. There's probably some weird ass let's see what fat people can do show in Japan.
But they have their sumos and they're pretty athletic.
Well, yeah, but they're actually like physically fit underneath all that.
Yeah.
Have you seen how much they eat? They eat as much as a family of 6 by themselves.
When it comes to sumos, don't look at their gut, look at their legs.
Yeah.
They have like no fat on their legs.
If even that. I mean, I remember hearing about a thing going on because there was a controversy that went on a few years back, saying that it's just all corrupt and it's all staged in the sumo community, or apparently
no.
Yeah. So
they're wearing fat suits.
No. That's all right. I mean, it's just that they'll do this little sumo match, but they'll always they'll fake bailing or whatever. I mean, it's all staged. They all plan out who's going to win in advance.
The same thing here in the United States with wrestling.
I was going to say it's called WWE.
Yeah. Well, that's essentially it. Sumo wrestling is WWE, except they're saying that this is a real sport. Not really. And according to from what I've heard, all of the sumo wrestlers know each other. They all work in the same area and they all work in the same community. They all go to they all do the same thing. Exactly.
Sumo wrestling is an art. Giving another giant man a diaper wedgie for the win is an art form.
Don't you judge them.
I wasn't. I'm on their side. Totally on their side.
Express themselves any way they want.
Well, no, they're men. Of course they can't.
Oh,
I'm not going to slut shame them. I mean,
are there female sumos?
No.
No, I don't think so.
Patriarchy.
I'm going to look that up. I'm actually interested.
Here's what I've heard. Like, the best way for women to get of a particular roundness is that they would have had to have had a child in advance, because apparently fat doesn't spread until after you've had a kid. You can still get fat. It just doesn't properly, go everywhere. Otherwise, it just stays in your gut. I don't know if any of that's true, but I've heard of similar things. But the problem with that is that, and I heard this when talks with Tonka, is that when women have kids, they almost lose all control of their bowels. So if that's why you don't see them in the UFC all that often, because you get in there and one kick, one punch, they'll immediately shit themselves. And I'm like, really? Because women just can't do it. It just
I just looked it up,
surely.
But traditionally, sumo wrestling is not. The women are not permitted to even touch the ring, but they are now having female sumo wrestlers. It's a thing now.
Good. Okay.
Sexism. They're not nearly as fat as the other sumos either.
It's kind of odd because women are on average more fat than men.
Yeah, apparently not if you're a sumo wrestler though. I mean, they're big. Oh, actually, wait, no, I'm in Google Images now. I'm lying. There are some big ones.
You need to screen share some of the stuff. I need new fat. Listen on, I need new fat material. Okay.
Okay, here.
I've been single for 8 years. I'm super bored with my sex life.
I mean, I've been single for 24 years, so.
What? Look, it's this clown of glory.
Good. Look at the key.
Oh, shit.
Oh, sorry about that. My wife was engaging my ADD.
But you weren't on the plane.
This is somehow sexist on your part.
Is it now?
Well, I did look at her, and she does not have a bra on at the moment.
Jump!
Oh. See? Patreon. So we keep going off topic. So just throw in some questions when you want, Onion. any other concerns or thoughts or questions?
My only real concerns is for my son. I can take care of myself. I can weave my way through this world. It's just I'm afraid of what will happen to my son if things continue on the path that they're going now.
Can we ask how old he is?
8 years old.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to teach him right, and I'm now. I'm more of an old school type guy. You know, I know there are double standards for men and women, and I will hold to those double standards. You know, I'm not going to do the full egalitarian and you know, treat women the same way I treat men. I will treat women better than I treat men because I treat men like shit. If I were to treat women the same way I treated the guys that I hang around with, they would be crying all the time.
Hey.
I don't think you're.
What do you
you're
mean by
wrong.
treating men like shit, though? Do you mean joking with them, or
Joking around and
Okay,
everything. It's like we get physical with each other all the time, and a lot of that stuff. You know, yes. Okay, let me put it this way. I'm glad I have a son because of a few reasons. One, I think they cost a little less in the long run.
Oh, yeah.
Two, I can smack my son upside the back of the head when he does something stupid. But if I had a daughter, I would just kind of not feel right about doing it.
Yeah,
And
I
three,
think that's.
you know, and three, I don't want to go to jail. I might have to kill. Might have to actually shank a bitch if he comes around my daughter the wrong way. But if you know, all I have to. What was the old? There was somebody said something a while back. It's like with sons you only have to worry about one penis. With daughters you have to worry about all penises.
Yeah, I guess.
I mean, like, but that's kind of like not really based on reality because like women can like be sexual predators as well,
Mm-hmm.
and it like deserves to be taken as seriously.
Yeah, I
Well,
think
it's
that,
the same as men, but it's the way you teach them. It's the way you bring them up.
I think that like a double standard for a lot of things isn't necessarily a bad thing because men and women and how they interact is different, and so I get that. But when you have certain groups like feminists who say that we want everything to be equal, I don't think that they really mean that.
No, of course they don't.
It's like if things really were actually equal in the way that you claim that you want it to, you'd be crying every single day.
That's why they support shit.
I don't
like
have a problem with that though. Like,
Well, you say that, but I mean, there's only a handful of them who say that they actually want that, and if they got it, they would be pretty upset. And for all the other women out there who don't want that, it's like,
Oh no, they
yeah, but
still
fuck
want
them,
men.
right? Like,
They still want men to pay for dates and men to hold the door and
yeah.
men to make all the money. But you know,
I remember, like, I
mean-
went to go out to see a movie with my mom and my brother, and she was shocked at how much the tickets cost and how much the snacks cost and all that because we took her out and she was just sort of surprised and I think it was like ended up being like $300 altogether for travel and whatnot, and she was shocked and I said, yeah, well, I mean, this is kind of why I don't go on dates all that often. Because dinner in a movie is pretty expensive, especially if it's the guy paying for it.
Yeah, but I think there's more important things than paying for dates and things like that. There's inequality under the law, for example.
not according
yeah.
to feminism.
No, but realistically there is. So having a son, how do you feel about that? Because you said you're happier having a son because the things you named, but there's a lot of mental issues that would
Well, that's where
I guess
my
make that
fear
known.
comes in. That's where my fear comes in. Now, that's the only equality I want. There are certain words that are blasphemous to me. Is like equality. What were the other? It was equality, judging, and discrimination. I hate those words. They're terrible words because people just don't want to be judged. And you do discriminate every day on multiple different things. It's not a bad word. And equality, no, there is not such a thing as equality except for the law. Now, I've had my run-ins with the law and the inequality between men and women. Like a while back, when I was like 16, 17, I got in a fight with my sister. And she took the phone and she I unplugged the phone on her while she was talking to somebody, and she took the phone and was like trying to beat me with it. I had my arms up and everything. I got her in a bear hug. She was biting my arms and stuff. And when I finally let her go, she calls the cops. The cops come and take me to jail.
Wow.
Yeah, no, not a mark on her. I've got bite marks and bruises all over me. So that's where I am afraid for my son, is because as I said, if things keep going the way they are, it's not just that there are inequities. These inequities seem to be getting larger.
Yeah.
Well, that's kind of why we have the men's rights movement. We're trying to like make it so that like men and women aren't like treated differently in like terms of like crime, and like men who are like abused are taken seriously. But like it's going to be an uphill battle, but I think it's still like worth going on. And even if we like can't get to like 100% equality, even getting to like as close as we can is preferable.
Can we just get rid of affirmative action? I'd like that.
There's that. Well, I think I'm trying to remember if it's what that form of justice is called. Is it like the Duluth model of justice?
Oh no! Don't no.
What?
Yes, the Duluth model.
Which essentially assumes the more physically intimidating individual, aka the men,
no, that's not the Duluth model. That is the dominant aggressor law, which is based on the Duluth model.
Okay, what
that's what I thought.
Yeah,
I'm mixing up things then.
The Duluth model was basically a group of feminists in Duluth. What I can't remember the state, but they came up with the model that men are basically domestic abusers because they want to oppress women, and they came to this conclusion by interviewing female victims and male perpetrators. So I'm sure that was completely unbiased.
Yeah.
And then this was passed around to various police organizations, and their training was based on that. And then the law was changed to the dominant aggressor. So basically, who is the bigger of the two is basically the one who's considered to be the dominant aggressor. There are other factors too, but that's the main one used against men.
It's because physical abuse is the only form of abuse.
Well, you could be a man who has just had the shit beaten out of him and not thrown a punch, but because you're the larger of the two, you're the one who will be dragged off.
I think that right there is the thing that should frighten feminists the most, is the redefinition of abuse. Because the way they're redefining it into like the verbal, the emotional, cutting people off from their friends, financial, a lot of those things women do more than men. And if we ever did have equality under those laws and we redefined it towards those terms, a lot more women would be going to jail.
That is what happened. They changed the law in America in the 90s. So whoever was the abuser would then be arrested, and the number of women being arrested skyrocketed. And that's why they changed the law to the dominant aggressor after that.
Now they just want to get rid of female prisons altogether because women are too delicate for prison.
Well, what was happening was police were turning up to domestic disputes, and they weren't arresting anyone, right? Because I guess by the time they got there, it might have come down or whatever, and they would leave. So the feminists demanded that the law be changed, so the aggressor should be arrested, and they thought that would mean an increase in the number of men being arrested, but it was actually women being arrested that increased.
Well, and doesn't domestic abuse, like, isn't it like 50-50?
It's pretty close.
most part?
Roughly, depending on the study.
Yeah.
It's 40-60, 50-50, something like that, depending on the study.
And so
Women just abuse differently, so they've sort of taken them out of the equation by changing the definition of abuse.
More women are killed.
Similar.
More women are killed with domestic abuse.
Yeah.
But
have you heard of the Black Ribbon Project?
Sorry?
No.
Like it's like an Australian project, and they basically show like the perpetrators and victims of like domestic murders. Like you can see like a lot of the perpetrators are women, but they're killing other women. Like if the husband like cheats on them, they might like kill their spouse or something like that, or kill whoever he's cheating on. Like that's one example. And it's just not counted. Like what White Ribbon does is they count those female victims, but they don't tell us who the perpetrator is. So it makes it seem like these women are killed by men because like that's what the perception is.
And they don't talk about the male victims either. So here in Australia, a woman is killed every 6 days and a man every 10 days. So we constantly hear about the woman dying every 6 days, but never hear about the man dying every 10.
We also like to ignore the fact that
it creates a narrative that men don't die from domestic abuse, only women.
Well, another thing to keep in mind is that when it comes to domestic abuse, men are more on the physical side, but I know that women tend to use more objects. So like lamps, hammers. I mean, the one that just sends like shivers up my spine was the one story about the guy who his girlfriend grabbed a hammer from the garage and whacked him in the shoulder, and then I saw the picture of the gap or the crater in his shoulder from where he got hit. As soon as I saw that sent shivers up my spine.
Well, yeah, and lesbian relationships are easily the most violent of all domestic relationships.
Yeah, I've heard that too.
No, it's true. Even
I'm not saying it's not true. I'm just saying I heard that.
It's true. Statistically, it's true. In almost every country they do a study like that. Lesbians on the top for abuse.
Well, that's why I say I'm more of a traditionalist, because I'm trying to teach my son traditional gender roles. Because I myself am his role model for how he should treat a woman. He will never see me harm my wife, and he will grow up learning that he does not harm his wife, and he will take his mother as his female role model and as the model for the wife he should be looking for. I mean, that's the way you create stable people, is through gender roles.
Honestly, they're part of the problem that's like going on. Like the reason why men aren't taken seriously is because of gender roles. Like,
well, there are things you can work on. It's just you don't throw the old phrase, you don't throw out the baby with the bathwater. People nowadays are trying to just get rid of gender roles completely, when there are so many things that over thousands of years have been perfected. Now, it's not perfect, but we continue to perfect it.
It's the expectation. It is that you have to fit into these gender roles, and if you don't, then society.
I mean, like even by themselves, they're pretty detrimental to society. Just because we don't live in like the ancient times. We live in a very modern, like technologically advanced society where, if you actually look at countries where women stay at home, like their birth rates are falling really high, and compared to like the countries where like women work as much as men.
Well, I mean, right now my wife is a stay-at-home mom, but once I start going to school, she's going to be going to work. It's not that you have to force people into these things. You just give them. They can do what they wish, and you just teach your children that they have these abilities.
But yeah, that's the whole thing about gender roles, is that they're generally expected, and that's the problem.
I'm all for people having options, but yeah,
Yes.
the problem is the expectation.
Yeah, I
And,
think the idea that women should be treated better than men is like that's like the reason why men are discriminated against and like all these different facets.
Well, it's true. Like you
Well-
said, you wouldn't hit your daughter, but you'll hit your son, and that's essentially carries into adulthood, and that's why women are treated better in society, and men are treated like shit.
You know?
you only have the one child, don't you? So
Yes. Well, maybe rephrase it from treating women better to treating them differently.
But imagine you had a
Because men and
daughter.
women are
Imagine
Yes,
you had a
they
daughter
are.
as well, right? And your daughter saw you hit your son, but not hit her. What expectation would that create in her, I wonder?
she would expect the next time she does something stupid that I'm going to embarrass the whole living crap out of her. Now I can show up at her school in nothing but boxers and a house coat, and walk her to her class, going, "I love you, honey."
But don't you
Day.
think that promotes the idea that it's okay to be violent towards men but not women? I mean, I don't think we should be violent towards anyone, but the ideal, the notion that it's okay to be violent towards men is part of the problem.
Well, I do understand the ideal, and I understand pushing for a better world, towards something that's better. But I like to live my life a little more realistic, and I have been in many situations where a toughening up saved my life. Where expecting violence has saved my life, because there are people out there that, I mean, a lot of statistics I hear all the time about men are encountered with violence almost on a 1-to-1 ratio. My son is going to experience violence in his lifetime, and if yes, he expects violence, well then he's going to be tough enough to that when he gets in one of those situations, maybe he knows how to handle himself when it happens. Now, I wouldn't just leave my daughter out. I would teach her to defend herself as well, but I would teach my son to expect it a little bit more than my daughter.
The cycle will
part of
never
the
end
problem?
that way.
Isn't that part of the problem, that men have to grow up expecting that it's more likely?
Yeah, plus that might just create the cycle. Like men expect violence, and like it might cause them to like just go into situations that are more violent because they like don't care about like their safety as much.
Well, it goes down to the same feminist argument of, well, don't teach women to protect themselves, teach men not to rape. Well, am I going to teach my son that they shouldn't be hitting him? Or am I going to teach my son that, well, there's probably going to be somebody that's going to hit you out there?
I mean, you can like teach them that, but I don't think like hitting someone is going to like give them the lesson. And if anything, like it kind of teaches them like hitting someone is because you're the authority figure. When you hit him, it's not like he should defend himself. It's like he's doing something wrong and deserves to be hit, right?
Yes, he's done multiple things.
We're sort of
saying that violence is like should be stopped.
Child psychologists, we're getting into like child psychologists, and most of them will agree that hitting isn't a good form of discipline, because it doesn't actually teach them what they did was wrong. It just teaches them to be afraid of you.
Well, the thing about that is I am a spanking father, and I do have a paddle. Now, when I spank my son, I do not do it that much anymore because he has grown to where I can reason with him a lot more. But every time I have spanked him, the first thing I do is I sit down and I talk with him, and I explain to him why he is being disciplined, and he understands. And I don't just go at him. I give him like 3 to 5 swats, just enough that he feels it and he knows that this is punishment. It's not like just going after him.
So would you do that to your daughter if you had one?
Wait. We don't torture inmates. Why wouldn't you teach them that it's wrong without the end result having to be, I'm going to hit you because what you did was wrong?
Hold on, Violet's got a good point. Violet?
Yeah, yep.
Yeah, would you like spank your daughter the same way if you had one?
Yes.
Oh, I thought you said before that you wouldn't.
When it comes to like that instantaneous pop them in the back of the head sort of thing.
I think we're all just trying to wrap our heads around the concept.
Well, I'm having some flashbacks of my dad beating the crap out of my brother with a paddle. So,
well, for that it would be my mother. Now my father did the same thing. He would sit me down. He would talk to me. He would let me know this is a punishment. This is discipline, and the physical sting of it was just to remind me of it. And it didn't go overboard. It didn't go into beating area. It was a discipline and a reminder. Now my mother, she would grab anything nearby and just keep swinging.
I'm of the mentality that kids, like once they start understanding languages and all that kind of stuff, I think that they can comprehend what you say, and I don't think that they need a physical reminder to know what it is you're trying to say, which is like if you're telling them you can't do this is wrong. I don't know if they actually need a physical reinforcement of that.
Well, as I said, I've tapered off over the years because
we're not
I hardly ever
guilt,
spank them now.
And we're not trying to guilt you on this. I'm just saying I think it's just sort of a talk about like, you know, is it okay? Is it not okay? I'm kind of teetering on it because I don't have kids, so I don't know.
Yeah, I think you're the only one with kids, Onion, so we're all kind of out of our depth a bit here.
Yeah.
Well, if any of you have kids in the future, there is one thing that you must know. As soon as they can take off their diaper by themselves, they will find what's inside of it, and they will draw with it.
My brother used to eat it.
That's why I don't have kids.
Yeah.
But as far as I do see the point of like the cycle of the argument of the cycle of violence and everything. It's just I'm personally trying to live in the world as it is, and I'm trying to teach my son that he will have to live in the world as it is, and it's going to gradually get better, but it's not going to be there probably in his lifetime.
Well, I think there's two different issues here.
Unless we stop aging.
The first issue is whether or not smacking your child is a good form of punishment. The second issue is should boys and girls be punished differently when it comes to that. So
not veering away from that too often, but or too far. But I did want to ask because you had mentioned something earlier about if you had a daughter and she misbehaved. You mentioned about embarrassing her and coming to her school in your underwear, saying, "Hey, honey, I love you." I was kind of curious about that. You just saying that to be hyperbolic, or is that
half and half?
Okay,
but because I really could if I wanted to. And
I would imagine.
Now, I may have to do it to my son in the future just to prove that I can.
I would imagine.
And then use that as a don't do it again, or I will.
I have to imagine that would be a very dangerous thing to do indeed. I could see someone like you going and trying something like that, and you'll be in jail for sexually assaulting.
Yeah,
or
just
claims
don't walk
of that
around
for
in your
20
underwear.
years.
Yeah,
All parents should keep pants on at all times. Don't even come over dressed as a clown. Don't you dare do that. They'll shoot you. They'll shoot you dead. But that I don't know. I guess like there again.
Maybe not that in specific, but something along the lines of embarrassing the tar out of.
Well, I think the fact that we have to be more creative in that regard does show a bit of a double standard in how we deal with these things. Because there again, that would be the question: how would you discipline a girl? I mean, would you spank her? Would you do this? Would you embarrass her? I don't know. I've actually never heard the idea of coming to the school and embarrassing them. That's a new one to me.
I mean, just take her phone away or something.
Yeah, obviously. That sounds like the starting point.
There's a lot of forms of discipline that work that don't involve hitting.
Or even scarring them socially for the rest of their lives. Because chances are...
The torture, the bullying from other students for that could go on for years, and I can't think of much a kid could do to deserve that for that long.
It's like one punishment could end up hurting them for the rest of their lives. It's like as soon as I'm 18, I'm getting the fuck out of this small town and go where no one knows my name, and then good luck getting them home for Christmas.
As somebody that was bullied as a child, I do know how difficult it is. But I will say that there is a certain value to bullying, and that is the toughening. I will say that I have been toughened up over the years by the bullying. It is that whole thing about there is adversity, and overcoming that adversity makes you better.
I wonder how kids that kill themselves feel about that.
Yeah, look, I think you're right to a certain extent, but I do think we shouldn't fall apart every time there is a tough moment in our lives. But at the same time, we need to listen to people when they're, really having a tough time. And I think men are really taught not to talk about their issues.
And I agree with that.
Do you not see I think we need a middle ground? So I'm not suggesting that men should fall apart every time someone says something nasty to them on Twitter, but there are serious things that need to be talked about as well. So,
and I agree with that as well. I'm not saying that it's a good thing to be bullied just for the toughening up. I'm just saying that people do need to create like a thicker skin, but they do need to have that outlet to be able to talk about their problems. And yes, I do see, especially being in the military, the need for just being able to talk. And actually, the military in America right now is doing quite well on that because they have so many services available to the soldiers to be able to do that.
An interesting stat, I found this a couple of years ago when I was looking into something. The suicide rates, as far as gender go in the military, are flipped as opposed to the rest of society. So the majority of people committing suicide in the military are female, percentage-wise.
That is interesting.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Percentage-wise, maybe.
Yeah, obviously there's more men than women, but if you look at the percentage of gender, then females are more likely to commit suicide.
Well, you're getting into a completely different territory there because that's the whole, should women be in the harshest of roles in the military, because it really does. We go through classes for mental toughening. We go through classes to create resiliency courses, and men do have that natural, you might say, beaten into us resiliency, where, like you're saying, the gender roles, maybe that girls may not, and then they get into a situation, they're thrown into a situation which is, you can believe me, far beyond your control, and then you're just expected to deal with it. They do try to help us deal with it, but you have to have that internal ability to at least take the steps to deal with it.
Yeah, I understand that, and I think that's part of the gender roles that males have, is that we often step up, more often than not, step up to do the shitty jobs and the hard jobs, and we often cope with that by pushing our emotions aside and getting on with it, and toughening up, as you would call it. And I think that's a very powerful ability. It enables us to do a lot in society, obviously. But there's a great cost for that. There is a massive cost, and that is, the number of men who killed themselves.
Yes,
it's a double-edged sword. So
a lot of guys,
in the military, there's a. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say a lot of guys we're based on our utilities and our effectiveness to do things and behave in society, and one of which being is like in case of wars and whatnot. And the toughening up is, often the thing that you need to do, especially when things get really bad. And I do think that I understand the reasons for it, but it doesn't make it right, and doesn't make it good, and it certainly doesn't make it healthy.
Well, even in the Bible days, the Israelites, whenever they went off the war, after they came back from that wholesale slaughter that was war back then, they had a thing that they would do where the warriors would spend it was like a couple of months separated from the rest of society, and they would just basically bathe themselves, cleanse themselves to get their minds right. And because of the horrific things that they had to go through, even back then they recognized that these men needed some sort of mental time to process and get themselves right.
Yeah. Well, war is a terrible thing, obviously.
Nah, peace is our profession. War is what we do for fun.
But even becoming something like a politician, you have to have that thick skin, like you're talking about. You're not going to survive in politics without that thick skin. But I have to say, surely that comes at a cost for a lot of people.
Yes,
it's an extremely stressful job. So,
yeah,
I don't know. I just think we need to find a middle ground somewhere.
Well, even in things like running a business is a very stressful thing for a lot of people to do, which is why I tend to wonder why anyone would want to do that. Like in particular to besides make money, I guess, but even that's not very good. These jobs are stressful.
Oh, I did have a different question for the Aussies. Everything that I'm hearing out of Australia it just sounds horrific. Is anything good happening over there?
I don't think we're any worse than Canada, to be honest. With the
is P. Sherman Wallaby Way Sydney doing okay over there at least?
What?
P. Sherman Wallaby Way Sydney.
You can tell you have a kid. Yeah.
Yeah, I recognize that Finding Nemo quote. Yeah. Son of a bitch.
I only watched that movie like twice in my entire life, and I know it because they said it over and over and over and over and over and over again. It's ingrained in my mind forever.
I can't even bring myself to watch the sequel.
Apparently, it's better than the first one.
Oh,
Which
that
movie?
would explain why the sales were so low.
Yeah, apparently.
Yeah, it did terribly. No one likes that movie.
Now I'm gonna go watch it.
Wait, which
I
movie?
love it when everybody hates a movie and then I end up liking it.
But the original question does stand. Is there anything good happening over there?
Yeah. Oh, well, I'm here, so
Incams are a thing.
They did.
Oh,
They
look.
didn't they just do gay marriage in that thing that happened?
yes, yeah, we did.
That's a cool
Really?
thing.
It just
Yeah.
now happened?
Yep.
Oh, that's surprising. I thought it already happened there.
I,
No.
I think we have the same regressive left issues that the rest of the Western world have. It's just that some of ours tend to be a little bit more vocal.
Yours are more obnoxious, is what you're saying.
Well, I put us on the similar level to Canada, to be honest. I mean, Canada's got some real nasty pieces of work over there too. So,
And
I
but,
don't
I
see
mean,
them in the wild very often.
but then I could say maybe America's worse with all the Antifa shit that's going on. So, I mean, who
It
knows?
really depends on what you would call worse.
Yeah.
Everything sucks.
In Canada, in particular, I mean, if you're talking about stuff like of the social justice variety, it's often worse in cities than it is in smaller towns and smaller areas.
Yeah.
In the city I live in, let me tell you, I'm scared to even start dating, and henceforth why my like 8-year sabbatical of pussy.
You'll live. You got Tanga eggs.
I got Tenga eggs. This stream has been brought to you by Tenga eggs.
Was that your choice or the choice of every woman around you?
No, let me tell you, it's my choice. Absolutely my choice.
So you just cut your dick off and put it away for a while.
No, and in fact, I mean, like I have noticed a change within the last year or so, and I think that's just because like people have just given up on the whole feminism thing. It's a lot quieter than it used to be. So, in fact, I actually know a couple of feminist artists, and they used to do quite well, and they've noticed that they've seen a huge decrease in their like subscriber base on Tumblr and YouTube and whatnot. So like, oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
People are catching on.
Tumblr is still a thing. Is that still going?
Yes.
It's still a thing. A lot of people thought it was going to go away because of Yahoo stuff that was happening, but it's still happening. It's still
Yahoo
there.
stuff? What Yahoo stuff?
Well,
They lied or something?
well, they had like a hacking into their email systems, and they said, well, only a couple of people's user information got hacked. And there was a big controversy for a little while, and then not too long ago they said, okay, well, we have to come clean. All user information was hacked. Please change all your passwords. And Yahoo, they own Tumblr. So, and yeah, and sure enough, I thought, okay, well, I'm changing my password and all that stuff, and yeah. So I thought people thought that they were going to go like belly up and all that, but they're still here. So,
unfortunately, my niece is one of the Tumblr genders now.
The Tumblr genders?
She came over to our house, and you know, I had to lock up the cooking ware because you know she's a pansexual.
That's such a dad joke. Oh.
And she's going out with a guy right now, so I guess she changed back. So.
I guess so. Eventually, you know, nature takes its course. I think some of the more dangerous things that have come out from the feminist movement and the gender sexuality nonsense that's happened is I've noticed that there were quite an increase of women in feminist calling themselves polyamorous, but really they're just sleeping with a bunch of different guys, and practically openly cheating, except they just call it polyamory.
Well, no, there's a like a polyamorous facet of men and women. A lot of them are in the BDSM community, actually.
No, and I get that. I totally get that. But from what I've heard and what I've seen from some of these people and how they're going about that, they're literally just cheating and calling themselves polyamorous and not informing their significant other. And
yeah, that's bullshit.
And when I heard that bothers me to the core.
Yeah,
but then,
that's bullshit.
That's damaging to all kinds of relations. But then you have the other types out there who are like saying, like, you're having guys who are essentially having these cuck relationships. Like, oh, my wife, she sleeps with other men in her bed. Yeah, I'm okay with that. I look at stuff like that.
I'm sure they're fine.
And they're trying to present this as a normal facet of life, and that just it bothers me. It really does.
Some people are okay with it. Cucking is an actual fetish.
And it can be, and I get that. It can
be. Some people are actually fine with it. I think people should concern themselves a lot less with what fucking adults do.
Yeah, as long as everyone's a consenting adult, it's
exactly.
It's all their business. But
it's when you go into the actual like cheating aspect, where you get into a monogamous relationship and go, I'm bored, I want to fuck this guy. You have to be okay with it, or you're sexist.
I was going to say, I think the real concern we should have is in 30 years when we get the first Tumblr feminist U.S. president.
Oh, they're trying.
Yeah, they're trying. I don't think it's going to work. I think that it's been quite a culture shock for a lot of people. Because there's a lot of people who just don't know all this, but they're coming to realize it.
I don't even think Trudeau will win again, honestly.
Trudeau will not win again.
I don't think he'll win again.
The problem, but that's not the problem. If we're talking,
I thought he was the Tumblr president.
He is.
Yeah, that's
Prime Minister.
This is a shock to a lot of people that voted for him, myself included. This shit was all sort of under the radar until he won, and then he came out. He's like, "Yeah, I'm a feminist. I'm gonna fire half the cabinet and fill it with women because reasons."
Well, and that was probably Well, he did two things. It was 50-50, so 50% men, 50% women. But for the men in particular, they all had to be diverse. Women, not so much for standard.
No.
And it was mostly like white women and all that stuff. And
then vagina, you're good.
But then fast forward to a couple of years, and there have been all kinds of scandals and all that kind of stuff. And he fired most of the diversity guys because not only were they of the right skin color, but they were not exactly well educated to do the role. So he ended up firing.
Yeah, they fired all the fucking politicians that have been doing this for 20 years and know what the fuck they're doing because equality.
Well, because equality, but like I said, he did these diversity hires. He ended up firing most of them because they're incompetent. He actually hired mostly white guys to fill in the roles. So I'm like, you should probably do this on the basis of merit and not on the basis of skin color and sex. And a lot of the women I think some of them ended up quitting because the job's too hard for them.
That's what I think. He's not going to win. Nobody voted for him because they wanted to hit this feminist bullshit. That's not why he won in the first place. Like, this all came after.
When is the next election?
I think 2 years.
Yeah, I think we're only halfway through his term. But I was going to say, and we shouldn't be talking too much on the Canadian politics because it only affects the Canadians here. But even though I can pretty much predict that the Conservatives are going to definitely win the next election, Conservatives, pretty much, it seems very likely.
It depends because the NDP has a good chance this time, I think.
I pray that never happens. They're worse than the Liberals. But anyway, but the Conservatives
are fight now. Canadian fight. I'm sorry, but I disagree, sir.
I got my Timmies here.
Oh, I have no idea what you're talking about.
Nobody knows. We'll
I got my cup of double here, sweetheart, and I got my box.
I'm gonna throw some fucking donuts at you.
Okay, shut up. Anyway, I was going to say that our Conservative Party over here are just as liberal as our Liberal Party. And they're essentially identical. And that's the sad part. And so in the next 2 years, there better be a big conservative shakeup of some sort. Because this, like Stephen Harper's conservatives, I may not have agreed with them, but I like them a lot better than the current conservatives. And I didn't think that was possible, but it's totally possible.
So they've picked a shittier candidate, and Justin Trudeau sucks. That's why I'm saying the NDP is probably going to surprise us all.
We can only hope.
Yeah. I got my fingers crossed, because right now it's dog shit and dog shit with sprinkles, and I don't want to eat dog shit.
Well, love them or hate them, the Rebel, that conservative news media out there has actually done a really good job of talking about the NDPs. And actually, the NDP support, like here in Alberta, my area where they're in charge, their support has just plummeted.
They're in charge of BC now.
Yeah, they're in charge there, and they used to be in charge of Saskatchewan. But if you look at what was happening in Saskatchewan, Canadian talks, we should probably get off of this.
Nobody knows about it. Just you brought up Justin Trudeau and triggered everybody.
well, depending on how bad it gets, up there in Canada, we may have to build a wall on your border as well.
We're already doing that out of snow.
And deport Justin Bieber, and we'll take the Rebel ladies.
Now you can definitely keep Bieber. He definitely fits in down there a lot better than up here. He's not nice enough.
You can have Celine Dion back.
We like her.
I was going to say, when Trump was elected, the immigration website for Canada crashed.
It did.
So
they found that they couldn't get in.
Did they actually all move up there, or
no?
No.
Our immigration thing
some people, but most didn't.
We couldn't take them in because we're too busy bringing in all the Muslims.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Any and all open slots are being taken over by foreigners.
Oh,
I'd rather have Americans.
I've heard so many fucking really disturbing things about Justin Trudeau and ISIS, and I am just I didn't know I could be more disappointed in him, and it just keeps happening.
Well, I mean, that incident with the mosque was hilarious.
That was funny, but this is new stuff. This is new stuff.
Yeah.
Like, we're not allowed to call reformed ISIS members coming to Canada terrorists anymore. They have to be referred to as some fucking Tumblr term that I don't know anymore.
Didn't y'all just pay a guy that got out of Guantanamo Bay like $5 million?
$10 million.
Oh,
it was
God.
And he walks around free. So apparently you can kill a bunch of Canadians, soldiers, and he will pay you money for it, apparently, which is disgusting to say the least. And out of nowhere, it was out of nowhere. It was one of those things like, we'll take him to court. You're going to go to jail for so amount of time. Yeah. The Liberals stepped in and just sort of said, this man has been hard done by. Here is some money and he must walk free. It is like, it made the world news. Americans were talking about it. The Australians were talking about it. We were the laughing stocks of the entire world. He's not going
to win again. That's the point. He won't win again.
So long as he keeps pulling this nonsense. I mean,
no, he won't win again. The amount of Muslim not even just they're not refugees.
They're migrants. Economic migrants.
They're not refugees. Stop.
And the thing is about it is that it's gotten worse in that regard, because we brought a bunch of them in, and then they set them free or set them loose on society, and they immediately commit crimes.
Yes.
And now our prison systems are actually overpopulated with a bunch of Muslims.
Deported.
And they're very well, and it's gotten to the point where we need to actually probably put these Muslims in their own prison, because they have been violent. Like the reports of other inmates being assaulted by these people, they just go in there and immediately start picking fights with the inmates inside.
They're only in there because of systematic racism against Muslims.
It's sounding great.
It's been getting pretty bad, but I mean, also like where they're talking about immediately deporting them, like this is costing us a lot of money in this country, and I'm not happy about it.
I want the get out. Really.
So the march works for the Canadian Tourist Board, by the way, just in case.
You're going to avoid this area and this area. These are Canadian no-go zones.
Just stay away. Just stay far away from like our main capitals and the big cities. You'll be fine.
And I'm not going to lie. I was a bit scared because on my way home today, I heard an extremely loud bang. I don't know what it was.
Oh,
I'm not going to say if it was an explosion. I know they came from the area that, which was a bit of a suburban area filled with Muslims. So I'm not saying anything. I'm not saying anything. I'm just saying.
Oh, you won't hear about it in the news though, because they cover that shit up.
Well, they weren't able to cover up that one guy who tried to perform his own little truck of peace incident. So that was all over the news.
Wait, do you remember the two Muslim guys that shot up a bar in Calgary?
Yeah.
It was all over the news. And then, like, the next day, 24 hours, it was blacklisted, and then they weren't being called terrorists in the news anymore. It was freaky shit, like conspiracy theory levels of freaky shit.
Well, and it got worse. Some of the victims from there were talking about on their Facebook things, and their Facebook posts accounts got suspended. I'm like, really? This poor girl wants to talk about the death of her friend, and you're not going to let her do that on your platform?
Because she said that they were Muslims and that they were terrorists, and that's not okay, because you can't tell the fucking truth.
Well, I mean, if they're shouting Allahu Akbar, I mean, that's just them trying to say, hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah, that's got nothing to do with what they were doing. That was just,
no. That was a friendly greeting before they're fucking going to shoot you.
Yeah.
Canada is a very magical place if you can't tell.
We like I said, it makes me feel like a conspiracy theorist, and if I didn't see it myself, I would probably laugh. But no, it was freaky, all over the news and then gone.
Didn't Theresa May say a couple of days ago that they do it in the name of Islam, but it has nothing to do with Islam?
I didn't hear that, but I wouldn't be surprised.
Look it up. She did just a couple days ago. When Trump tweeted about the what was it, Britain First things, and Britain blew up.
Yeah,
that is the biggest stupid thing about the Trump presidency is everybody getting upset about tweets.
His Twitter is really triggering. I'm sorry.
It's as if they believe whatever he tweets is policy.
Well, do you remember when he blocked one reporter and how she absolutely freaked out because the news is nothing but Trump, 24/7, nothing but Trump. And if you can't see his Twitter account and you can't report on him, well, that you're essentially ruining his or that journalist's career.
Well, she couldn't create another account or open an incognito tab and look at it all because it's public. Man, could you imagine if he protected his tweets? Holy shit. TV would die for a day.
Has everyone heard about the men are scum controversy on Facebook?
Oh yeah, I heard of that. Like, Facebook is starting to ban people who say men are scum. And like feminists are saying like this is proof Facebook is like an extreme right-wing website.
Oh.
Yeah, they're oppressing female voices.
Are they going to start?
I don't think someone should be banned from Facebook for saying men are scum, but this is the world they wanted.
Yeah, oh yeah. Enjoy your standards.
Yeah, they wanted hate speech. They wanted people banned for saying things which is considered hate speech. So you reap what you sow, I guess.
Unless it's cis white straight men.
Yes, exactly.
Those are fair game. Everybody else is protected. Everybody else. So fuck white people, kill all white people, kill all men. Totally fine. Totally fine. But I mean,
well, don't fuck white people because that would propagate the species.
Hold on.
You're going to breed them out.
Here's an interesting thought. We should accuse anyone who says men are scum of being racist because they're talking about black men. And if they say they're not talking about black men, then we say, well, they're excluding black men because they're racist.
They are.
Yeah. Like same with like all the minority men, like gay men. Well, actually, gay men are kind of like privileged now. So
yeah, gay men are getting a lot of hate from feminists. Well, they're the most sexist of all because they want to have sex with women.
Darn gay male misogyny.
They've actually come out and said shit like that. That's
yes.
That's
What are
non
people
being
calling
sarcastic.
Riley Dennis now?
Sorry.
What are people calling Riley Dennis now? He or she?
She like she's on hormones
Is she
now.
okay?
So.
Well,
Okay.
She got
I'm
some,
still
she
like
got
iffy,
surgery and
but
shit.
like I guess
Is-
she's on
is-
hormones. She went through surgery. Like
Well, we
I
need to be
think
clear
she became
what
worse.
type of surgery. We're not talking like gender reassignment surgery. She had, or he, or whatever, had some
She had like
beauty
facial
enhancements.
reconstructions, facial
Yeah,
reconstruction.
she got rid of the dick on her neck.
Yeah,
Oh, she went after that beautiful Adam's apple.
I think she
Yeah.
shaved it. I think it was. It's not
That
gone.
thing
It's
was
just shaved.
marvelous.
It was huge.
It had a face on it, and it was really distracting.
Is it a complex surgery to remove something like that? I wonder.
Yes,
I don't think, like I said,
kind of, but
I'm pretty
it's
sure
very
she did.
not
close
compared
to
to other surgeries.
It's but it well obviously not like gender reassignment surgery, but it's an invasive surgery. It's really close to a lot of things in your throat that are very important. There's a reason men have an Adam's apple and women don't.
I'm pretty sure the Adam's apple was not removed. I'm pretty sure it was shaven
No, they just
down.
they just shave
Yeah.
because they can't really remove it. They can only sort of flatten it a little bit. So
Yeah. I mean, it's at least that's something, but yeah, I mean,
most people have gone to calling Riley she because she's committed to transitioning at this point
Yeah, that's fair enough.
with hormones and surgery. So
That's fair enough. Yeah.
the hormones is new to me. So I don't recall that.
she's
The
on
surgery,
she's on HRT. Like she's,
no, well,
she's, yeah.
Okay, I guess.
Yeah,
so.
I think most people were under the impression that she was a transgender beforehand.
Yes, that's why Blair did that crying apology video to her because she felt
Oh,
guilty.
so pathetic.
Yeah, she regretted that shit real fast.
I'm gonna still be skeptical. Yeah, I'm still gonna be skeptical about Riley in that case, just because we'll wait and see as time goes on. Like I if I had owed an apology, I'd definitely go to Milo Stewart because I mean she's actually going ahead with all the injections and what. I thought she stopped. That's what I thought too. But apparently,
Wait, did Milo stop or no?
Milo stopped. Yeah.
Milo Stewart. If you watch the latest video, I mean the voice. Oh, it's kind of. I don't know. I don't know if she actually has stopped because it sounds like she's going to keep going.
Really?
The voice it's changed a lot, and it's slightly frightening. It makes me uncomfortable to listen to her talk.
I don't watch Milo. I got sick of 1,001 response videos to Milo, so.
I feel sorry for Milo. She just seems like she's so confused about everything.
She's doing what's popular, as most kids do at that age, and what's popular is the trans stuff.
That's really fucked up, though.
I mean, like back when they were like being pro-gay and all that other kind of stuff, like in a few years back, it was it's like most girls would say, "Oh yeah, I kissed a girl" and all that stuff.
I'm bisexual. That's it.
Yeah, they would all say that they were bisexual and all that. I mean, I even have a friend. She's a feminist and all that stuff, and she says, "Oh yes, I'm totally bisexual." And I asked her, "Oh, have you dated a woman yet or anything like? Have you explored that?" And no. And the last time I checked, she keeps calling herself bisexual, and she's never done anything with a woman, not once.
That's
not
really
even kissed
common.
Bisexual and like not like have sex with like both genders, but like if it's coming out of nowhere and just for attention, then yeah, that's a problem.
That was a common.
Like the biphobic thing. I think Riley did it fairly recently, where if you won't get into a relationship with a bisexual person, you are biphobic. And I'm a bisexual woman, and I didn't want to date bisexual women because they think it's okay to cheat with the opposite gender. And it's a fairly common thing for bisexual women.
I don't think men have a problem with bisexual women. Do women have a problem with bisexual men?
It's probably more common than the reverse. Like they're like, "Oh, I don't want a man who's like dick touch another dick or poop or whatever."
I know a lot of guys that don't don't want to date a bisexual woman because they'll cheat on them with women.
Really?
Yes.
Now that seems kind of stereotypical, though. It's not really like
It's just, yeah, that's why I say me personally. I know a lot of men who won't date bisexual women, but it's obviously more of a thing because Riley Dennis was talking about it. They don't want to date bisexual women because they think it's not cheating if they're doing it with a woman.
I don't know. Like, that sounds bad. Like, I don't mind the idea of dating a bisexual woman. It means threesomes. Okay, good. I'm all right with that. But I mean, if you're like you'll date me and then date someone else like that, that's just no. I'm gonna bring this other person into the bedroom. Otherwise, we're not doing this at all.
Yeah.
Well, I think we're going to get to a point where people are going to go back to wanting that monogamy, and not purity, but not extremely experienced in sexual ways to get with each other. I think people are kind of starting to go back towards wanting, I don't know, people that haven't slept around so much, men and women.
Yeah, that's the thing. A lot, like, women say, "Oh, men can have sex with as many women as they want," and they get praised, and that's not a normal thing. Like douchebags, maybe douchebags do.
Yeah, I have to wonder if a man and woman started dating, and the guy said he slept with 100 women, whether she would be turned on by that or turned off.
Most women would be like, "Ew."
Yeah,
gross.
That's what I figure.
Yeah, it's gross.
I would think most women would say, "Have you gotten tested?"
Exactly. Yeah.
You know, and when it comes to men being praised for having sex, that only happens around the high school level because everybody's dreaming about having sex and like, "Oh, you had sex?
We're super excited for you." And douchebags,
Exactly.
adult douchebags and teenage boys.
Especially in the geek community, it's like, dude, you touched boob? That's awesome.
How many boobs have you seen? 5. Oh.
I think since a lot of these people are younger, they're kind of taking all this stuff like it's high school and translating it to the rest of life, and it's not that way.
No.
I mean, myself, I did have my time where I tried to sow my wild oats, but really, I was looking for a wife. I was looking for wife material, and I found my wife. The only person stupid enough to put up with me.
Monogamy is slut shaming.
So.
How dare thee?
I'm sure someone's made that argument at some point.
It is. They do often.
It's hard to tell what's a parody anymore.
Shaming.
Nothing is a parody. It's all real. It's all become reality.
Well,
this is the world we live in.
As I said, I've listened to a lot of men's rights and MGTOW and even more left-leaning people and everything, and I hear like there are studies out that women that sleep or have, what is it, over like 20 partners, their ability to have a monogamous relationship is like almost shot.
That's fucking gross. I'm slut shaming now, but that's fucking gross.
but like something mentally, it's just they can't handle being with one person. And for men, there is the same thing, but it's like a higher number or something.
They've completely separated the emotion from sex, the closeness, that connection you have with a person, and made it completely about physical gratification. That's what you get a dildo for. You don't use people for that. You get a dildo. Fuck yourself.
I mean, we're gonna have sex robots in a few years, so like
those are patriarchal.
My wife just saw the first video about a sex robot and it freaked her out.
The one,
they
the
look
one
really
that's like
stupid.
attached to that has no body and it's just the head that goes up and down. That thing is scary. It's
I,
like
I find the whole concept a bit weird, to be honest. But yeah,
It's
that's
like-
just me.
they cut a woman up like from the tits up and cut her and then cut her arms off. It's just a head and
Supposed to make the
boobs.
sandwiches.
Exactly. How is she supposed to make sandwiches if you cut her arms off? It's not a very good sex bot if she
That's
can't bring
not
a
very
sandwich to you
functional.
after. No. Man needs the sandwiches.
Yeah.
I would like to do away with this myth right now. In my family, the men are the cooks, and one day I'll teach my wife how to cook. She hates when I say that, though.
Someone's sleeping on the couch tonight.
But it's true. All the best chefs in the world are men.
Chef Boyardee, baby. Uncle Ben. You know.
Chef Boyardee is gross. Fight me.
But no, there are certain things that I make and certain things that she makes. She's got like a Latin background, so she makes wonderful Latin food, and she's not allowed to touch cornbread because that's my area, so like Southern food is my area.
Sounds like she agrees with you.
Oh, did you hear her in the background?
Yes.
Can they hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes, I heard you, honey.
Oh.
So what exactly are grits?
Grits are delicious.
It's basically cornmeal.
And it's delicious with cheese.
Butter.
And cheese.
Cheese.
It doesn't
My-
have cheese on it.
Everything's
wife's a
better with
cheese
cheese.
It's
Everything's
true.
better with cheese.
For grits.
Oh, yes, Lord Jesus.
Cheese
So.
and grits. It's like peanut butter and jelly. Now I'm fucking hungry.
And shrimp.
But go make yourself a sandwich, woman.
Yes, and make us one too.
No, fuck you. I already have a handler.
That's all from that shit right there.
I'm not allowed to eat sandwiches. I'm actually on the keto diet, so I'm not allowed
So
to
no
eat
bread.
bread. No bread.
I'll make your bread.
You can put a sandwich in lettuce. It's almost as good.
was that?
Oh,
What was the thing Kentucky Fried Chicken had a few years ago? It
Oh,
was
the
it was a-
chicken is the bun.
yeah, they
Yes.
used chicken as the bun. What was it
The
called?
slam. The slammer thing. It just looked awful.
Yeah, it looked pretty gross.
Although Dorito tacos are the best thing in the world.
it was delicious. It was 2 fried chicken breasts with ham and cheese in the middle.
It sounds like death.
That is the most southern thing I have ever eaten.
It was
And I
death.
come from the South, so
If you Google pictures of it, though, they look disgusting.
They
like
do.
the-
They probably taste
The,
good though.
the actual KFC pictures look, okay, but if you look at pictures of the actual thing, they're just like they're sliding off and
They probably tasted amazing.
greasy and
But
yeah.
they look gross.
Yeah, they probably taste great, but yeah, they look disgusting.
well, if you want like the lettuce wraps, Jimmy John has like a marvelous BLT that's a lettuce wrap instead of with bread.
Oh yeah.
It's wonderful.
Lettuce makes a replacement for bread if you are trying to be less fat. But I love bread. Who doesn't love bread?
I'm sure there's someone out there.
Well, they're fucking stupid.
Tell us what you really think about them.
If you don't like bread, you're fucking stupid.
Breadophobe.
Yeah, they are. They're
Well, every-
bread-phobic.
Every now and then I got to cheat. So like when after Thanksgiving, when we had all the leftover turkey, I bought me some pumpernickel because
Oh,
leftover turkey sandwiches are the best.
I'm bizarre. I like turkey in tortillas leftover.
Tortillas.
Yes. I know it's not right, but it's so good.
corn or flour?
No.
Flour.
Flour.
Nope.
I don't like corn tortillas. They're
No
gritty.
corn.
Corn tortillas are gritty.
For certain instead of 2 and wait for
My wife's a corn tortilla person.
Give me all the flour
Okay.
tortillas.
Okay.
I'd rather make my own.
Now, settle an argument. We'll get y'all's advice, both of you. Is it pecan or pecan?
Depends where you're from.
Yeah, I would assume it's pecan, but
Pecan
I'm
is.
like-
It depends where you're from. It's a purely accent thing.
Don't start the shit, John. Cord, don't start the shit.
It's pecan.
No, it's not. It's pecan. Don't start the shit because I'll start cursing at you in Spanish, and don't even get me started on the shit.
Throw things at him. Throw some pecans at him.
Que no me vale nada eso.
Well, everybody
Okay.
in the chat seems to think it's
Chiflo.
pecan.
That's my chiflos.
Ay, Dios mío. Stop.
Yeah, everybody
There's-
thinks it's pecan. Yeah.
So everybody in the chat says pecan.
Everybody
Where do
in
you see the
chat-
chat?
And you're all wrong.
Here, I'll put it in the side chat for you so you can see.
I'm not used to Google Hangout, so.
Hopefully you could see that link
It's
there.
okay. I take majority. I take the majority, so I win.
Everybody's saying pecan.
Okay, I see.
Just remember.
Pecan in the UK.
Just remember.
I say it
happy
both
wife,
ways.
happy life.
That's
You
sexist.
gotta be quiet.
Davy, I am way more hillbilly than she is.
I ain't a hillbilly.
I have actual redneck in my lineage.
Look.
Her accent's thicker than yours, though.
I'm
I
not
think
a
that's what
hillbilly,
it
I'm a
is.
Texan. It's
Well, I can put it on and take it off. It's kind of muddled because when I am around my family, for some reason, it just starts coming out, and I start sounding like this. I don't know why. It just happens.
You sound like
I've been
Larry the
away
Cable
too
Guy.
long. Yes, exactly. I've been away from the South way too long because I used to sound like this, but now I sound like this.
I believe that's called cultural osmosis. You live in an area long enough, you start adapting the accents and all that.
It's true.
Like if I spend a few years in the UK, don't be surprised if I come back with a couple of oys and whatnot.
Well, that's because you're Canadian, and we already kind of have some words we pronounce like that.
Maybe.
I'm gonna start the pecan war.
I thought you just like dropped your R's and H's.
I mean, how
What are you
Canadian
talking
do I
about?
sound to you?
a boot.
Boot.
A boot. What's wrong with a boot?
You've got
No, no, no.
Minnesota. That's what you think Canadians sound like.
I think like the worst kind of Canadian accent is the Newfoundlander.
I
sounds
love
so-
Newfoundlanders. Shut up. They're the best of us. They're the best of us, and you're just jealous.
It sounds like they're fucking from like they're partially Irish or something.
Yes,
But I guess
they're like
considering
the
how
Irish
drunk-
had sex with people from Wales and then gave birth to Newfoundlanders. That's what they sound like, and they sound awesome.
Well, considering that they're about as drunk as most Irishmen,
They
I wouldn't
are.
be surprised.
They are.
Maybe I'm confused yet. Maybe they don't have an accent. They're just drunk.
It's true. That's probably closer to the truth. Yeah, but no, Alaskans sound more Canadian than actual Canadians do, generally. Alaskans and Minnesotans.
Yeah. I hear Alaska is like the biggest producers of most marijuana in the States.
Woohoo! It's gonna all come down into BC when they legalize next year.
Well, this
In your
upcoming
face!
summer.
They are in the summer.
Wouldn't it
in
be
BC.
too cold?
No, you can grow weed inside a greenhouse.
So one of the things
That's
that
true. Yeah.
not to get too back on the Trudeau thing, but he wanted us to go from a oil-based province here in Alberta to a marijuana-based province, and that's
It
why
would probably be okay.
we are currently building the world's biggest greenhouse for marijuana.
Oh,
What's
hell
he
yeah.
smoking? Ah, see what I did there?
And the worst dad joke of the stream goes to...
I couldn't pass that one up. Come on.
You didn't even give anybody a chance to laugh. You just...
Yeah. That whole country's going to pot.
I hope so. We're all. That's like the only good thing Justin Trudeau's gonna have done with his fucking his election is legalizing marijuana.
I remember when it was legalized in some of the states, and I was listening to the Young Turks at the time, and they were talking about how, look at how much money this marijuana industry has brought these states and all that. And they're right, it did go up. But it's sort of leveled, I guess, and they're no longer bringing in nearly as much as they thought they would.
Well, no, they get a boom, but they're still bringing in a lot of money. It's still a very large moneymaker.
Yeah, it is. But we'll see.
It's almost on par with alcohol.
I am totally for the legalization of marijuana for personal use.
For adults, obviously.
Yes. Yeah. Treat it like alcohol. Tax the crap out of it. I don't care. Yeah. I would actually much rather be high than drunk.
Yeah, me too. Children can consent though to alcohol usage, so that you're a bigot.
Can or can't?
Can.
Are you quoting Amos Yee? Is that what's going on here?
Come on.
I'm wondering when that was going to come up.
I stay completely away from the Amos Yee thing. So just kind of explain it a little bit.
He thinks that when children want something, it's consent and not stupidity.
Yeah, you want to stay away from it unless you want to get very angry.
It's a very stupid thing, but I agree with like Sargon on this. He's fucking trolling.
No, I don't think so.
Well, I think he is just because it doesn't really make a lot of sense.
But honestly, even if he is, there's a lot of people that follow what he's saying and are using it to abuse children. So even if he is trolling, he's still very, very dangerous.
Well, I don't know if someone's gone out and abused children after hearing Amos, but
I'm pretty sure anyone who wanted to abuse a child was going to do so anyways.
Exactly.
You'd be surprised. A lot of pedophiles fight with a lot of guilt, and that could be a thing that they go, okay, well, it's not as bad as I thought it was. Some kids are okay with it.
I don't know.
You'd be surprised.
I don't think anyone takes Amos's argument seriously.
Except for like Heart Progress and NAMBLA and organizations like that.
Yeah, but they already had that opinion anyway, didn't they? So
you don't think he's convincing anybody else that's been on the fence about it?
No, I think anyone who agrees with him would have already agreed with him.
Oh, you're talking about Amos Yee?
Yeah.
I will say this though. I don't know if he actually is in the United States. I know he makes that claim. I know he's made a lot of claims about a lot of things. I'm starting to doubt it. I don't know. For all we know, he says he's like he's living in the basement of a nice family or whatever. For all I know, he's not. He's probably in his own basement claiming that he is.
No, I think he's in the United States because he was in jail for about 10 months. And I was in newspapers and stuff. So.
Yeah.
Ugh, this subject sucks.
Yeah.
I made a joke and you made it serious. Fuck.
Yeah, it's my fault. Sorry.
It is.
Can't help it.
Yeah, you're the worst.
Yeah. Okay. I'll take it. I'm the worst. Samaj is the terrible person.
You are. Well, you're MGTOW. You're the worst.
I'm not fucking MGTOW. Don't bring me up like that.
The thing with Amos is, should people respond to him? Because
yes.
Sure. Yeah, but I mean, I think if we keep responding to him, he's going to keep making the arguments.
Yes, but
maybe it is an attention thing.
Nobody has actually refuted him very well. I think other than Jeff.
What have they mostly been saying?
Oh, that it's gross, that it's disgusting, which it is, but nobody's disproving the fact that there is a slim number of children who don't grow up completely fucked up, and that's what he's relying on entirely.
Yeah, but when someone claims that a baby, not a 14-year-old, but a baby can consent,
Well,
yeah.
I don't know how anyone can take that serious, though.
That's why I'm
Because-
thinking he's trolling, because there's no way you can reasonably make sure that that's.
I mean,
Even if he is, it's still dangerous to let ideas like that go unchallenged. You don't want to silence him, but you don't want to leave him unchallenged either.
They have been challenged, but I have to wonder if we should keep challenging them, because we might be feeding the troll. Maybe if no one paid him any attention, he'd just go away.
Possible.
I'm pretty sure it's going to be possible. Like this subject has already gotten fairly boring with the majority of the skeptic community. So I'm like, yeah, people are just going to ignore him at this point. I don't know if you'll see too much in the way of response videos. I think like topics like this only have like a shelf life of maybe a month at most. It depends on if you hear things like, oh, he's now a homeless guy and so and so and so and so, then maybe you'll hear something. Or he's going to be deported back to Singapore. Maybe you'll hear him then.
That's the thing. If he is trolling or just looking for attention, he's going to have to come out with something more extreme and more offensive than he already has. And I don't know how,
going to.
Yeah, I don't know how you would do that, but
You can't really
I know,
get
like,
much more
reality,
offensive
maybe.
than that.
I do not have an opinion on that subject.
Oh, you know what he might be? What he'll do next after this has gotten bored with most people, he'll start saying, I'm pro-suicide.
I said that. Nobody got that about it. So
I mean,
Oh, you did?
it's
Oh,
like,
fuck! I didn't. I missed it.
Like euthanasia is okay, and like it's definitely not something that should be encouraged.
I think that adults have a right to their own life.
Yeah.
Basically, and most people won't argue that because it's true. I think it's really stupid that suicide is illegal. You're gonna punish a corpse. They just punish people that don't do a good job of it instead of allowing them to die with some dignity.
Just give them. They need like mental health. Like,
Gonna punish a corpse, send them to jail with the other inmates.
You can rot in prison for all I care.
It's like that movie.
So what you're saying is you think that the penalty for failing suicide should be the death penalty.
Oh, that's only logical, really.
That would make everyone happy then, wouldn't it?
It probably would, yeah.
When it comes to suicide, I'm kind of split because yes, I do believe that people have the right to their own life, but I also kind of have this, and I know that a lot of people in the military, there's the whole 22, which means like 22 a day on average are committing suicide, but I also have the thought in my brain that, well, that's just kind of stupid. I mean, if you're gonna do that, I mean, you're just being stupid.
And I mean, people are entitled to think that, but you're not. I don't think anybody should be allowed to force somebody to also agree with that.
Yeah, exactly.
and,
No,
like,
no,
most
no.
of them probably are dealing with like mental, like illnesses and like whatnot. So
Like people
they're not,
people
like,
often
thinking in the right mind.
People often think that the people that commit suicide are selfish, but what's more selfish is forcing somebody to live in what is essentially daily agony for them, for your comfort.
Yeah, but it really depends on that person's circumstances, surely.
It does, yeah. It does. It really does. I think that mental health is something that we don't do enough about either. And I think if we were going to go the route of legalizing or aiding in people who are suicidal, they definitely need some access to mental health help first.
Like I was
Because
thinking,
generally they
be reserved for like people who are like have like a crippling illness that like can't be cured and basically like halves their lives or whatever. Basically
well,
make them, like, unable to
depression's
function.
crippling.
Well, it's true,
For a
but
lot
like
of people.
it can be you can like it's not permanent. It's not like
It
being
is. It is a
paralyzed.
permanent. It is permanent. Depression is permanent. You're never not depressed. You can treat it with drugs sometimes, but you're never not depressed.
But you can still like physically function as like a human.
You can't. Some people can. Some people cannot.
Well, that's where I feel bad for non-ADD people, because I have been depressed before, and then a cat walked by.
Squirrel.
So it's hard for me to actually stay in a depressive state because my mind just moves on to something else.
Yeah, I think that's you can treat depression kind of like that way. Just like get people's
That's not
mind focused on
depression.
something else.
That's periodical depression, and usually as the result of a traumatic event. It is not depression, which is constant, pervasive, and for no reason.
Okay, but
Well,
do you
that's
think
because they got a demon in them.
Yes, they're fucking possessed. But no, there are different kinds of depression. There's depression as a result of something, and then there's clinical depression, which is a chemical imbalance in the brain that we still don't really understand or know how to treat, which is why you have to just try drugs and drugs and drugs and see, oh, maybe this one will work, maybe this one will work. And for some people, nothing works.
But doesn't this generation know everything?
You magic.
Yeah, clearly it's all caused by the patriarchy. So
It is. And only women get depression.
I'm sure someone said that somewhere.
It's men's fault too.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Women get depressed. Yeah, that could be.
Women are depressed because reasons.
Because reasons, yes. Those are true facts.
Truth.
Truth.
So much truth.
Might be it.
So do you have any more questions, Onion? Because we might start wrapping up soon. I think we've been going for about 3 hours. Has it been that long?
Yeah, we're hitting that mark.
Yeah, the country won't be starting soon, so I'll have to head out.
Not really any questions. It's just I think that there's just a focus on people want to dictate or control what other people say or think. Like myself, I'm very libertarian in the way that I want to say what I think, and it doesn't. I don't want other people to have to live by it. But it doesn't mean that other people should try to shut me down because I think something differently. I just think that people need to realize that it's not, even if you say something, it doesn't mean that you're trying to push it on other people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with different opinions.
Silencing tactics are called fascism.
Mm.
Nobody likes fascism.
So you're saying it's fascist to shut down Milo Yiannopoulos?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He did that to himself a little bit.
You think so?
He tanked his career with that whole young boys fucking adults thing. That was when he tanked his career. When he got banned from Twitter, it was great for him. That all that did was boost him.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I guess it just proves that is the one universal subject that that you just don't touch.
Yeah, everybody hates. Don't justify pedophilia, and you'll be fine.
Well, I would like to take this chance to thank Bane for actually inviting me to this.
That's no problem. I'm happy to chat to different people.
Yeah, you're not trying to live in an echo chamber.
Yeah, hopefully we didn't get on too much of a tangent, and you found it entertaining, somewhat.
Yes, I did. I mean, this is actually what I've wanted, because you know, y'all went full Stefan Molyneux about like the spanking thing, and which, you know, I disagree with, but hey, we can disagree.
Yeah, that's fine.
But
You don't all have to
you
have
know,
the same opinion.
and I do tend to get in that echo chamber of people that disagree with what you're saying, and I can't really go that far out of it because I don't want to jeopardize my, you know, my career or my, you know, or my future or anything.
Mm.
And something like this is I guess very helpful for that.
Well, I think we're fairly open, our community, to talking to different people. I think if you approach people, they'll generally do a hangout with you and talk to you. Maybe not some of the bigger guys. I imagine they get approached quite a bit, but I think most of us are fairly willing to talk to people.
What are you talking about? You're super famous.
I'm not. I don't have Sargon's number of subs, so
Yeah, but you know him.
I do.
Yeah, super famous. You're a friend of the super famous people. That vicariously makes you super famous.
I don't know if it works that way.
It does. Don't question me. Don't mansplain. Don't mansplain famousness to me.
I'm Bane-splaining, so it's
You're
different.
Bane-splaining. Oh, no, man. That's like starting up a new gender. Don't do that. Don't do that.
I'm already Bane-sexual, so
That means he fucks himself every day.
I try.
His blood is Kool-Aid. His will is MRA.
Would that be considered? Would that be considered skull fucking?
Probably, actually.
Here's the thing: I get into arguments with feminists on Twitter occasionally, and when I'm not abusive and I'm putting forward logical arguments, they tend to go and have a look at my Twitter account to try to find something to pin on me, right? Because you know, they can't refute my arguments, so they tend to then accuse me of being a male supremacist because on my Twitter bio thing, it's got foot soldier of the patriarchy.
I mean, it's obvious because you have a penis.
Well, the actual thing reads Bane-sexual, Kool-Aid kin, foot soldier of the patriarchy. Not the patriarchy, but the patriarchy.
No room for humor on Twitter.
And they take the foot soldier of the patriarchy seriously. And then throw it at me as an accusation that I'm a male supremacist.
Yeah.
It's pretty obvious that you are.
I don't know.
Look at you.
I don't know how anyone can read that and not see that I'm being sarcastic. Do they actually
Well,
believe
the
I'm
text doesn't
Bane-sexual as well? I have to wonder.
Of course. You must love yourself.
I thought you were being sexual.
Master Anonymous in the chat goes, jars don't have dicks.
It's almost as like saying it's like being someone yeah, it's almost like saying, like, you know, having sex with babies is okay. With someone actually believing that's true. Sorry, I had to go there. No, it's a fucking troll.
Like,
Troll,
you can only-
That's one of the biggest conundrums to me is like, how many men have these feminists come across? Because men love women.
Yeah, that's the funny
short,
thing.
You just
fat,
rape
skinny.
culture,
It doesn't matter. Men love women.
They say that the gamers and the geeks of the world, they just hate women. It's super misogynistic spaces, and I call sincere and serious bullshit. The second you are in a group of men and you share something with them, like their hobby, oh man, they worship the shit out of you. You're like a fucking unicorn.
Because we don't want you to leave.
What they've done?
No, don't go.
They've warped perspectives on a lot of these things. Like if you see community, and it could be like comic books or video games, and you look at it from the outside and say, oh, these people are having a lot of fun, but I've noticed there's no women in this thing. And then what are you going to draw from that conclusion? And they tend to think, well, maybe they're being sexist towards them. Maybe they're being this, maybe they're being that.
Yeah, the only reason there's not 50-50 men, women is because the women have been prevented from going there. Obviously.
So
That's
the
one of
women
the
don't give a shit about video games and Warhammer. It couldn't possibly be that.
that's one of the conclusions they get, but then they also tend to forget, like, when men and women interact, it's different. When you get a bunch of men interacting together, they are often harsher, meaner, crueler, or all that kind of stuff. Like, I'll call anyone a fag, and I don't actually mean it. I'm just saying it to get in their head so I can win the game.
I feel so special that you've called me a fag before. That means we're friends.
I mean, I've called you all kinds of things, but I mean...
I know.
But I mean, it also means I can't shit talk you if we're ever playing a game together. It's like, oh, I can't say nothing. She'll know it.
When I was a kid,
you fucking neckbeard, shut up.
When I was a kid, there was these little candy cigarettes which were called fags.
Yeah,
because that's
where you could actually blow out the little sugar.
Because fags used to be a slang term for cigarettes.
It
still is in the UK.
Yeah.
I don't know so much these days. I think it might have fallen out of popularity.
Yeah.
Well, there was I believe fag was also used as a term as like a bundle of sticks. That's another term for a fag.
What's faggot?
Faggot, yeah.
Yeah. So faggot is a bundle of sticks, which is, I guess, where the term fag comes from because...
used for firewood.
Yeah.
There was an amazing scene from The Simpsons that had that. They were trying to come up with the kids were trying to come up with a plan, and the smart kid was like, "We're gonna grab a bunch of these sticks and we'll use them to float off of like a mighty fag." And then the dictionary definition came up in white text just below them, and the kid's like, "Yeah, okay, we'll do that. We'll go make some fags."
I've just got a notice that's popped up saying Internet Explorer has stopped working. So if I suddenly disappear, you know why. But I think you can still hear me, and I can hear you, so it's okay for the next couple of minutes. I think.
To shut you down, and they're using Microsoft to do it.
Sorry.
Oh.
I said the internet's trying to shut you down, and they're using Microsoft to do it. Why are you using Internet Explorer?
It works.
Oh well,
that could not have been planned any fucking better if you set it up that way. Well, if he doesn't come back, we're gonna go off air in 10 minutes. So we have 10 minutes before we die.
So who wants to find the nastiest porn?
Everybody in the chat's going. Somebody in the chat goes, "Who's using Internet Explorer?" The one that just dropped out.
Duh.
That was beautiful. That was fantastic.
Yeah, I have Windows, so my computer is like always telling me to like use like Internet Explorer.
And the answer is no.
Like, no.
No.
Yeah, they're like, it's faster than Chrome. Like I did try it for like a little while, but it was much more difficult to navigate. Like the right clicks are just.
Oh, you mean the new Edge?
Yeah.
Granted, it's better than it used to be. Hey, you're back.
So
that was so fucking funny.
I was talking, and then I realized I wasn't hearing you guys. So, what did I say before I got cut off?
You were right in the middle of it. Works.
You were trying to explain Internet Explorer.
It was the best thing ever.
You're trying to explain Internet Explorer says it works and you're gone. I think you're trying to say it works like this. And
well, streams usually work with that. Firefox, I used to do them on Firefox, but then it stopped supporting it or something, so I can't do them on Firefox.
Oh, it's fine now. It's fine now.
Okay.
Yeah, and Chrome also. Chrome is always going to work better on Google Hangouts than any other browser.
No, I had problems with Chrome.
Oh, I've never had an issue with Chrome.
Yeah.
It might depend on a few things. Like, on my laptop, like Chrome just didn't work on it, but Internet Explorer did. So
yeah,
on my computer, it's like Chrome works fine.
I used to do all the Hangouts in Firefox, and it worked fine right up until the point where they start telling me that I couldn't do Hangouts anymore. But if they fix that, then I'll go back to using that in the future.
It works fine for me. I use 4 different browsers, so
yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah, I use 4 different browsers. It's just easier because all the channels I have to manage, I just keep them logged in on every different browser.
All your soccer accounts.
Yeah, I have all
You're
of them.
really Kevin Logan, aren't you?
I mean, don't we look alike?
Both got red hair, so.
Oh, you
You're wearing a mask.
gingers.
Like, if you took
I
the
don't know,
mask off, I'm willing to bet it's Kevin under there.
Definitely.
Goddamn gingers. Next thing you be careful
Super
with this one.
hard for me to sound
next thing
like less like a potato, but I work hard at it.
Yeah, that's impressive.
Isn't it? The accent's hard to hide too, but I manage. I don't know.
And it was amazing how you did both yourself and Kevin Logan in that hangout we did that time.
Yeah, I did it again on the Cunt stream not that long ago.
Yeah, that's very impressive.
I know. I'm a freaking ventriloquist.
You set up 2 cameras, and you know.
Well, you notice I'm never on a camera at the same time as Kevin.
Ah, that explains it.
It does.
That's some soulless magic there. You're getting that from the devil, aren't you? Goddamn ginger.
Anyway,
next
final comments, guys, and
I suddenly don't like potatoes anymore.
You suddenly don't like potatoes anymore. Oh.
Yeah, that would be cannibalism, wouldn't it?
It would be, yeah. Get out and good night.
If I had to give some final thoughts there, I like to push anyone listening here to try and at least look into this petition going on for Jeremy from Open Sleeve Media, as he was perma-banned from all events at Magic the Gathering, and if you listen to his cases, it's quite weird. And they also banned a pro Magic the Gathering player. He makes his money going to tournaments and winning prize money. That's how he pays his bills. And apparently
yes.
he also Travis Wu, he also got banned for life and scorched earth and all that kind of stuff. I think because he was he was part of a Facebook group that had memes in it, like Pepe memes, which is pretty ridiculous to get perma-banned. And this is his livelihood that's just been taken away. So he started a petition. Petitions mean nothing, but at least it's something. And
hold on. He got banned for life because he was part of a group on Facebook that had Pepe memes.
One of them, yeah.
Yeah. They
and that's it.
That's it. That's all. Now there's more to the details and more other stuff that went on, like with cosplayers, not involving Travis Wu, but with Jeremy there. So I mean, to look more into that, I'd say like check out the Quartering Open Sleeve Media, or even Monday Matt. He just did a channel, or Count Dankula did an amazing breakdown of what went on, and a very easy thing to digest. If you want to look that up, check up like Count Dankula. He's got this thing on Thought Magic. But the petition's at 4,282 signed, which is quite good, because when I first saw it this morning, it was only about 2,000. I thought, yeah, as the week goes on, this will probably reach 5,000 before the end of tonight.
Put the link in the side chat. I'll put it in the regular chat.
Sure thing. I will do
So
that.
the one called Thought Magic, that's his video?
That's the video on the Magic the Gathering situation right now. It's quite something, but I wanted to close with that, and I have to head out to the Cunt stream, so I'll talk to y'all later.
Yeah. All right.
He's getting in trouble from his handler.
Yeah.
So Violet, any final thoughts?
Not really. You just sort of told me about this today, so like I didn't really expect to come here.
Yeah, I haven't done many streams this year. I'll try to remedy that next year and do a lot more.
Yeah, maybe we could have some streams that aren't recorded, just discussing issues.
Yeah, we could do something like that. And Onioncore.
Yes.
Final thoughts?
I don't know. Just try to be decent to each other, and the only way, I am convinced, the only way that you can make the world a better place is one person at a time. You influence the people around you by living a decent lifestyle and being decent towards others. And if you're being a little shit to somebody because you don't like their ideas, you're not being decent to people, and you're not influencing people to be decent.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
May God bless you and keep you all safe.
Samaj, you just popped back in.
They're full. So I'll come in and listen to everyone's goodbyes. I'm sure it'll be quite heartfelt.
Well, we're just finishing, so bye.
Bye.